On the eve of International Women's Day, the market was jammed. Traders were offering flowers for every taste and a variety of goods for women. Men of all ages were looking around, wondering what to present to their favorite ladies. The weather was perfect, sunny and not too hot. Jessie, a pleasant girl, was cheerfully calling out to the customers, "Don't pass by, men. The last 3 bouquets are left. Look how fresh the tulips are. Not even buds open yet. Take will not regret it, and inexpensive at all. Make your sweetheart happy." Jessie was in a good mood. There was already a considerable sum in her belt purse. She had sold almost everything, and it wasn't even lunchtime. Armin was sure to be pleased. The girl came from Little Town, had rented a room not long ago, and had taken a job as a market vendor. She liked taking care of flowers very much. She could create beautiful bouquets, knew how and what to feed them, how to timely and properly prune. Outwardly, the girl was not a beauty. A round face, snub nose with a scattering of freckles, mischievous red curls, and the figure left much to be desired. But it was her simplicity that attracted customers. Those willingly took flowers from her, considering the girl a kind hostess. The owner of the kiosk, Armin, specially looked at the new pretty worker and licked. But Jessie was a serious girl and immediately warned him not to be silly. She was about to start a family. There was only 1 bouquet left, and even if she didn't sell it, it was no big deal. And then 3 teenagers with hoods hiding their faces jumped up to her. Jessie didn't even get a good look at them before they snatched the money from her bag and ran as fast as they could. The unhappy saleswoman dropped everything and ran after them, shouting at the whole market, "Help! The money has been stolen! Stop the scoundrels!" A tall, stately fellow saw what was happening and tripped one of the fugitives. He fell down, but the other 2 didn't wait for him. The trail was gone, and this young man bit the boy's arm, twisted and ran around the corner. The boy howled in pain, and a panting Jessie ran up to him. "Thank you for stepping in, but you suffered for nothing," he got away, the creep. They ripped the bag right out alive, 1 strap dangling. Then all of today's proceeds. The owner will kill me now, and I didn't even remember their faces, so they wouldn't have anything. Someone earns by hump, and someone lives like this at someone else's expense, she lamented, crying bitterly. She was so offended she had been on her feet since 5 in the morning. She had worked so hard, sold everything, and then some scoundrels stole everything. Suddenly the boy timidly took her hand and said, "Come on, don't cry. It's not the end of the world. What's your name? I'll help you. How much did you have in there?" The girl sobbed, "Jessie, I'm from Little Town. I thought I'd make a little money, help my parents out. And there was this. It was almost $300. That's a lot of money. Armin will kick me out. I bet he'll hang me with the debt." The guy smiled. For some reason, he was so eager to help this sweet, simple girl who had a certain appeal. "And I'm Charlie Johnson. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back," he called out to her. Jessie just waved her hand. She didn't believe the guy would come back. Why would he want someone else's problems? She ran to the trading place and began to pack, tears choking her. What would she say to the owner now? She already imagined what a scandal it would be. But 10 minutes later, Charlie came back, out of breath, and triumphantly handed her a wad of money. "Here, I withdrew it from the ATM. Exactly that amount. Here, pay it back as soon as you can, so no one will kick you out. Don't worry." Jessie couldn't believe her eyes. She blinked often and wiped her tears. "Thank you so much. You saved me, Charlie. I'll save up. I'll pay you back little by little." "Oh, why are you helping me? Tell me, I thought there was no such thing in life. You're like a magician. And I can't believe such a handsome, good-looking guy would pay attention to me. It's not like I'm the trendy, skinny one. I'm still in my body. Guys don't usually like guys like me." Charlie laughed. "Maybe I'm different, and I like you a lot. Don't try to make something of yourself. I like the real you. Don't get all stereotypical. You're easy and pleasant to talk to. Let's go to a movie tonight or just go for a walk. Would that be okay?" Jessie glowed with joy. Guys rarely said such nice words to her, and she immediately agreed. "I'm in. Where should we meet?" "Don't laugh. I'm dying to go to the amusement rides. We don't have such attractions in our town, but I'm shy because of my figure." She was a little complex, to be honest, the boy replied cheerfully. "That's easy. At the entrance to Central Park. Then, you're underestimating yourself. Jessie, you've got a great figure. You're a sight for sore eyes. But I'll see you later." Then the girl paid the owner, but he didn't suspect a thing and was satisfied. Jessie paid $1 for the day. The girl's heart was jumping out of her chest, but what a day it was, sorrow and happiness all mixed up. She cleaned herself up and got ready for her date. At 7 sharp, Charlie was waiting for her at the park. He was admiring Jessie. How she looked in that simple polka dot dress, and she wasn't fat at all. On the contrary, she was so appetizing, blood and milk. The couple had a good time. The girl squealed and laughed while riding the merry-go-round. They ate ice cream and cotton candy as if both of them had returned to their childhood. All night, Jessie rolled around on the old couch and sighed languidly, remembering the hot, passionate kiss Charlie had given her. A couple days later, the boy came running to her at the market all excited. He averted his eyes, stomped around, and spoke confusedly. "Jessie, here's the thing. I gave you the money. I withdrew it from my mom's card myself, you know. I'm still a student. I don't make any money. And yesterday she saw the charges, and she made such a fuss. We have a cafe in the center called Gourmet. So my mom says you're going to have to work for that money. She's going to hire you as a waitress. I'm sorry about that. I'm really sorry." To his surprise, the girl wasn't upset at all. On the contrary, she was happy and replied, "So be it. It has nothing to do with you. Anyway, thank you for helping me out at the market. It was cold, hot, raining on my head, and they pay Armin a pittance. I'm fed up with it, I agree. I'm not afraid of work. I'll do my best, and I'll be closer to you. We'll see each other more often. Maybe it's all for the best." The guy hugged the girl. "Thank you, Jessie, for understanding me. You're so sweet. I've never had such a good time with anyone. Come by tomorrow at 8. We'll get settled." Jessie paid Armin back. He got mad at her for not telling her, but he let her go. There was nowhere to go. The girl already dreamed how she would deliver orders and get generous tips, but things turned out differently. Charlie's mother, Valentina Gregory, was a very unpleasant person. She was immediately upset with the girl. "Oh, you showed up. Oh, good. I thought you had no conscience at all." She'd embezzled other people's money and was happy to do it. "No, my dear, you'll have to work every penny of it. You'll be a dishwasher and a cleaner every day. Until you pay off your debt, you won't get paid for a month. Understand? Go get changed." Jessie was stunned. "But how am I supposed to keep up with everything? Charlie said you'd take me on as a waitress." The arrogant lady looked at her as if she were nothing and replied sharply, "No way. Have you seen yourself in the mirror? I have a decent cafe. Why do I need a waitress who looks like a milkmaid? If you don't like it, give me your money right now and leave. I'm not holding anybody back. And forget about Charlie. He's my only and favorite son, and I'm looking for a decent bride for him myself." Jessie sighed. She didn't have the money. It was her own fault, and she'd have to deal with it. She agreed and resignedly went to change her clothes. It was hell from that day on. The girl fell off her feet from the mountains of dishes, washing floors in such a whirlwind. The whole shift she couldn't sit down for a minute to rest. In the evening, exhausted, she fell on her old sofa and sobbed from helplessness. She remembered her childhood, their poor family, and did not understand why some are lucky to be born into a wealthy family, and others are like this, weeping all their lives. Is it fair? It seems like you're trying to make it in the world. You work your ass off, but it's all for nothing. It's like someone from above is watching and thinking of another challenge. We'll see what we can do. Jessie grew up in a little town. It's a small town on the edge of the state. Her parents were unlucky. What did her dad try to do? Nothing worked out for him. He wanted to raise pigs, built a pigsty, bought feed, but it was a bust. The whole litter died. All expenses and no profit. Then Dad decided to buy an old creamery and press oil. He took out a loan at a high interest rate, but he failed here too. Nothing paid off. There were often quarrels and scandals in the house. Mom was always tired and irritable. She worked as a milkmaid, leaving after dark. Her hands were very sore, and her earnings went only to pay off exorbitant debts, which accumulated like a snowball. From a young age, Jessie was a big girl, like her grandmother, but at the same time did not eat a lot and always worked hard. Helped her parents in the vegetable garden in the village. It wasn't considered a disadvantage at all, but her father sighed every now and then, looking at the growing strong daughter, and said, "Oh, Jessie, who are you so big? You're growing as if on yeast. How can I marry you?" "Well, that's all right. As long as he's a good man. Don't choose too many grooms. Accept it." The girl was so hurt to hear this. She herself was complex because of her fullness, and did not want to marry some tractor driver or mechanizer without love. Her mother loved her, pitied her, encouraged her. "Don't get upset, my daughter. If a man with a heart loves, he will accept anyone. You're my smart girl, the first helper. I only wish you happiness. Don't listen to your father, he talks nonsense." Jessie was a very good cook and dreamed of becoming a chef and going to study the profession. But after graduation, she realized that it was impossible. The family is in debt, as in silk, and there is definitely no money for her studies. Her parents quarreled. Her mother blamed her father for everything. He got angry, started drinking, and he started getting sick. Then Jessie decided everything on her own and began to pack for the road. "Mom, enough. How many times can you do this? It's impossible to be at home. You live your whole life like a cat and a dog. Aren't you sick of it? I don't scold Dad, he didn't do it on purpose. So I won't go to school. So what? I'll go to the city. I'll get a job. I'll help you. We'll manage together, we'll pay off our debts." Her father frowned. "What are you thinking, daughter? What city? What will you do there? Who is waiting for you there? We don't even have any distant relatives there. There's no one to take us in. Don't make things up. You should get married, not tail around town. The girl parried, marry who, Dad? Who will take me? Everyone laughs at us, calling us losers. And where to find a normal groom? All the eligible ones are already in town. And the ones that are left are brawlers and drinkers. Look at Mom. She's only 45. She's all down on herself. Is that what a woman's happiness is? I don't want that. Simeon waved his hand, saying, "Do what you want," and jumped out into the street, slamming the door so that the plaster fell from the wall. He felt bad. His daughter was right. It was all because of him. No matter how hard he tried to provide for his family, everything was falling apart like a curse. But Jessie stood her ground. She was not a timid 10 and for some reason piously believed that she could make her way in the city and get the family out of debt. At first, she managed to scrape some money out of her paycheck and put it on her mother's card. She thanked her profusely. But now she herself is in debt bondage. It was the hopelessness that frightened her. The only good news was that Charlie Johnson hadn't given up on her. And in spite of Virginia Grace, they continued to see each other. He cheered her up, comforted her, called her sweet candy, and kissed her hot. How can you resist? Jessie fell head over heels in love, with her heart racing. She waited for every date and hoped that Virginia Grace would get over it, and she and Charlie would get married. 2 months passed. The paycheck came in. Jessie had paid off her debt and hoped to get a double paycheck. But when she saw the pittance she had been paid, she wept bitterly. The cook, Uncle Slava, gave her a shock. "Get used to it, girl. It's always like this here. You work for 10 people. And how to pay? They'll come up with a fine. They'll take away your bonus. I've been retired for a long time too. This is a part-time job for me. So I don't die of boredom at home. And you run away from here. You're still young. Find a better place. You're not the first or the last person I've ever seen get screwed over like that." Jessie sobbed and shook her head. "I can't. I love Charlie. I can't stand it. And he loves me. He's got me pregnant. We've already applied. Nothing. Soon my tortures will be over. We'll be husband and wife. We'll have kids and live like human beings." The cook sighed heavily. "You're stupid. Naive Charlie's going to kill you, I bet. He's not independent, and he can't go anywhere without his mom, and she won't let you live. They're not good people. You can't expect anything good from the Johnsons." But Jessie didn't believe it. Charlie was the one who talked about the wedding. He looked at her like that, and he was excited about the baby. He couldn't betray her like that. Though somewhere in the back of her mind there was resentment against the groom for his softness. Why allows her parents so humiliate her? Why doesn't he stand up for her? Will not find her a better place to his bride. He sees how tired she is, how underpaid she is. But Jessie banished these thoughts and endured, hoping for a miracle. Soon Charlie had to confess to his mother that Jessie was pregnant with his child and that they had applied. What began to happen? Virginia Grace screamed, blushing with anger. "Son, you dare to marry that beggar with a potbelly? How do you even know it's your child? There's no way I'm going to let that happen." Charlie mumbled. But Mom, I love Jessie. She's great. We're getting married anyway. We've already applied. Don't yell, we're getting married in our cafe in a week. We're already looking at rings." But the woman jumped to the closet, grabbed her son's passport, tore it to shreds and laughed. "Here's what you get. I'll throw out this crook tomorrow, and no wedding. And if you think of going against your family, I'll deprive you of everything, so you know, and then go back to your countrywoman to knead manure. Why would you want to be such a burden to a young man?" Charlie was afraid. He was not ready for independence and did not want to leave his comfort zone. He thought his mother loved him and would gradually get used to Jessie. The boy was completely despondent, tormented by his conscience. On the one hand, he really was in love like never before. Jessie was as good as anyone he'd ever been with. He didn't have to pretend with her. She already idolized him, so genuinely pleased with any gift, any sign of attention. But on the other hand, the guy was used to living on his mother's means and simply could not imagine how he would go to a boring job every day without her support. Well, no, it wasn't for him. Jessie was scrubbing the floor, doing her best. When Virginia Grace suddenly flew to her, she roughly pushed the girl. The mop fell, and the woman began to scream. "Get out at once. Are you fired? I'll never recognize your child, and he won't be a Johnson. I warned you. Forget about Charlie. You think you're the smartest girl in the world, trying to sneak into our family through your bed. If you don't, go back to Little Town to work cow's tails, and I don't want you here." The girl cried, trying to defend her love. "Let Charlie tell me that. Then I'll leave. We'll have a baby with him." "Can't you even spare your own grandson? How can you do this? What have I ever done to you? I'll be the best wife I can be to Charlie. I love him so much, and he loves me too. Why do you have to decide who's better off?" Virginia dialed her son's number and shouted, "Son, you tell that fat lady to get out. She's demanding you. She keeps telling me about her love to the grave." Jessie picked up the phone. She hoped that everything would be all right now. Charlie would tell her mother that they were almost husband and wife and put her in her place. It couldn't be otherwise. The wedding was coming up, but her fiancé only mumbled, "I'm sorry, Jesse. What happened? My mom's against our relationship, and it's no use arguing with her. You know she tore up my passport. So there's definitely not going to be a wedding. We have to break up. You better go home. It's better for everyone." Jesse was shocked and couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Charlie, how can this be? You said you wouldn't leave me, that we'd get married. And what's going to happen to the baby? You were so excited when you found out, and now you don't care about us at all." The groom said quietly, "Go for an abortion. It's not due yet. Mom said she'd give me money. I'm sorry." Jesse was suddenly so angry. She replied sharply, "Fuck you and your mommy. You're some kind of man, you still can't take a step without your mommy's skirt. What a fool I am for believing you." The girl kicked the bucket, and dirty water spilled over the floor. Jesse obeyed and said to her mother-in-law, "Let another fool work for you. You unscrupulous people. I'll never set foot here again. I can live without you. I won't be lost. I worked off my debt a long time ago. You haven't paid me my rate yet." Jessie left with her head held high. It was only in the rented room that she let the tears flow and roared to her heart's content. She was in a panic. Black thoughts swirled around in her head. God, what a fool I am. That's right, our whole family is cursed. I went to earn money to help my family. And now what? I'll come back with a belly and not a dime. How am I supposed to face my parents? Oh, how embarrassing. Maybe I should go to the hospital and get an abortion, find a new job and stay in town. The girl stroked her belly, listened to her feelings, and suddenly imagined how she goes and leads the baby by the hand as he hugs her, calls her mom. After all, he is already there, a living tiny little man the size of a grain. Is it his fault that his father didn't need him? Do I have the right to take his life? Would I forgive myself for such a sin and be able to live in peace? Jessie already knew the answer. She couldn't. So she wiped away her tears and began to pack her things. The big city did not submit to me, did not accept me. Why did I jump into bed with a scoundrel? Nobody forced me and did not fire me. Now I have to leave. Alone I will not raise a child here. Here I have nothing else to hold me. By evening she was already standing on the threshold of her home with a suitcase. Her mother rejoiced, began to hug and kiss her daughter. "My sunshine, my daughter. You have come to visit. And why have you packed so many things? Well done. But somehow you are very tired there. You look sad. Your face is gone. Even my favorite cheeks are gone." Jessie couldn't take it anymore and burst into tears on her mom's shoulder. "Mammy, you have me so stupid. Will you forgive me? You won't kick me out and visit? I came here for good. It didn't work out for me. They cheated me. I worked like a horse for 3 men, and they paid me a penny. I know you're in enough trouble as it is, and now I'm just snowed under. But I have nowhere else to go." The mother stroked her daughter's head, and the father clenched his fists. "What are we, strangers? It's your house too, live in it. The damn capitalists are trying to cheat the common man. They have no conscience. And I told you there were only crooks in town." Jessie didn't dare to tell him about her pregnancy yet. It was embarrassing. She began to settle in at home. In the morning, she was literally sick to her stomach. She'd sneak down to the cellar and eat sauerkraut and pickles. She was crazy about them. One night when she went to the kitchen for a drink of water, she heard her father and mother talking. "Jane, what's the matter with your daughter? Is she sick or something? She's pale, distracted, keeps running to the bathroom. I don't understand. Should we call a paramedic?" The mother sighed heavily. "John, you're like a little kid. Weren't you young yourself? Have you forgotten how I used to eat cucumbers by the side? Our pregnant daughter is afraid to tell us." "Oh, my poor girl." The man jumped like she was pregnant. "Where's the husband then? Who gave her a baby? What a bastard. It's a disgrace. What kind of shame? We're going to be shamed. You've raised a girl who's a whore. Who'll even take her now? Ugh, disgrace." Blood rushed into my head. I felt so ashamed. So ashamed that the people closest to her were judging her. She ran into the kitchen and screamed hysterically. "Yes, Daddy, your daughter is a tramp." My fiancé left me. He listened to his mother and changed his mind about getting married. "You don't need me like this." "No, honey, you're a daughter now." "That's right. I'll go to the furnace, bury her. That's all. No disgrace." As she was in her nightgown, barefoot, she ran through the garden straight into the forest to the river. Tears filled her eyes. She had really decided to take her own life. Why would she want a life like this, if even her parents didn't want her? Virginia Grace grabbed her husband Sam by the chest and shook him. "What have you done, Herod? How can you do this to your daughter? But she's young and foolish. She's not the first. She won't be the last. What if she really drowns herself? I won't survive." "Listen, it's all because of you. And she went to town because of your debts." "Oh, whoa. Why are you standing there like a statue? Let's go find her." Sam threw on his jacket and shouted, "I'm sorry, loner. I'll find her and bring her back and make it right. Wait here. I'll be quick." The man ran through the woods, as if dazed. The branches scratched painfully. He screamed, "Jessie, daughter, where are you? I'm sorry, call me back." He was sweating, but he got there just in time. Jessie was already knee-deep in the cold water. She stood there, still hesitating to do the wrong thing. Sam rushed after her, picked her up and carried her out of the water. He fell on the shore with her and, breathing hard, he said, "I'm sorry, daughter. I'm wrong. I said some crazy things in my heart. What are you, my silly girl? Mom and I love you, and we'll raise our grandchildren together. I promise I won't say another word. God be with him. With the traitor, let him go. But people will stop talking too. We're not used to gossip. Let's go home. It's cold, and we'll catch a cold, God forbid." Jessie exhaled. Her dad had forgiven her, and that was the most important thing. She'd be fine now. Mama kissed her, got her drunk, wrapped her up like a little girl. And the poor thing felt a little warmer. After all, the walls in the house helped. The village routine began. Neighbors at first brought the girl to tears and judged in every possible way. That, they say, a foolish girl turned out to be. And Podolia brought a child. How could she not be ashamed? And then my father got into trouble again. He drank too much, and on a bet decided to drive a tractor along a difficult route near the river, failed to control it, and overturned the equipment right into the water. Tractor, of course, pulled out, but the farmer Charlie Johnson, who worked for his father, terribly angry, and put the family a huge bill for the repair of equipment. Mom cried again, berating Dad. Nothing in the family changed. Jessie rushed to help her dad and went to the farmer to fix the problem. She imagined what she was about to hear, probably kicked out. But surprisingly, Charlie Johnson seemed like a nice man. He was huge and menacing, but his eyes weren't mean. He took Jessie in, listened to her crying and begging for forgiveness instead of her daddy, begging her not to put the family in another debt, asked for a job of any kind. The man thought about it. He looked at that thin, crying girl, and then he said, "Well, Jessie, your father's not a bad man. He's not lazy, but he can't drink. He can't control himself when he's drunk. If he says he's going to do it, let him go back to work. But on one condition, you'll be my son Armin's nurse. He was in a car accident 3 months ago. Miraculously survived, but his legs failed. He can't walk now. He's in a wheelchair. If I needed an operation, I would give any money to put my son back on his feet. But the doctors say that Armin can get back on his feet if he works hard on his own. The problem is that he has lost all interest in life, is very depressed, and does not want to do anything." Jessie couldn't get through to him. "Now, you get your son back on his feet. Your father doesn't owe me anything anymore. I'll pay your salary, no hard feelings. And if you don't, I'm sorry, but I'll have to pay for the damage. You'll get your capital and give it back. Think about it. But I warn you, Charlie has a very bad temper. Have you had 3 professional nurses come before you? None of them could take it. If you agree, I'll see you at the gate tomorrow at 9. Goodbye." Jessie ran home and told her story and started begging her father with her mother. "Daddy, stop drinking. If you get a certificate from the hospital, the farmer will hire you back. But please, for your grandson's sake, I can't take it anymore. Have pity on Mommy and me at last." The man lowered his head. He was so ashamed. He felt ashamed, as if he'd fall to the ground, letting the whole family down again. He said quietly, "Okay, I'll go tomorrow. I've had my fill. It's time to get smart." "Oh, I don't know. Daughter, you shouldn't have agreed to be Charlie's nurse. You don't know him. He's such an arrogant bug. He's never even considered us human beings, but we do everything for him. I'm sorry you have to go to him." Jessie just shook her head. "That's okay, Dad, we'll see. I'm not used to hardship. There's nothing to lose anyway." Her father kept his promise and got coded, and he decided he wasn't going to torment his family anymore. So he went back to work for the farmer. And Jessie started her new job and went to meet her mentee. In the bedroom on the huge bed lay a young man, her age, unassuming in appearance and thin. Clearly not his father's type. He was unshaven and pressed buttons on his cell phone, completely disregarding the girl who entered. She did, however, flip-flop. "Good morning, Charlie. My name is Jessie. I'm your nurse now. It's time to wash up and have breakfast. Then we'll do the treatments. Your father made me a list. We'll stick to it." There was no response. The boy didn't even turn his head in her direction. Jessie sighed and went to open the tightly closed curtains and opened the window. Fresh air and gentle sunshine rushed into the room. The man suddenly grimaced, wrinkled his nose, and said sharply, "Put everything back the way it was and leave. I don't need a nurse. When my father's bloody gone, I don't want to live. Leave me alone, all of you. Or do you think I'm going to dance to your tune?" Jessie didn't think about giving up, and without expecting herself to, she replied sharply, "Don't you be mean to me. You're a pussy too." He's lying there whining. "I don't want anything. What are you doing?" "Hysterical. You're a grown man. You're not ashamed. All you men are the same. All you know how to do is to be rude and cause trouble." Charlie was taken aback by this insistence and said, "What do you know about me to talk like that? You're nothing but a servant." Why should I have to be so ceremonious with you? Not so long ago, I was the happiest. I had a girl I loved. We were going to get married. We were about to get married. Why? I just agreed to run that race. Now I'm a worthless cripple who can't even go to the bathroom by himself. What am I explaining to you? You're young and healthy. You can't understand what it's like to be bedridden. She clenched her fists. Unpleasant memories came over her too, and she was almost shouting. So you think there can be nothing worse than your pain and tragedy, and the common people are just like that, just servants. You can spit on them, ignore them, harass them. You yourself are nothing. And then she told her story from childhood to the present day. And then she added with heat, what am I supposed to do now? Leave? And then I'll have to give your father every last dime, and my child will be left with nothing. Hang myself, because I don't need anyone with a belly? Shoot myself because my whole family are losers? Well, fuck you. Personally, I'm not giving up, even though my dad dragged me out of the river a while ago because I wanted to drown myself. You just keep complaining and whining. It's easier than fighting. Climbing, trying to achieve something. But that's it. I'm going. Armin called out to her. Stop, I'm sorry. I didn't know. Okay, stay here, I'll get treatment. Maybe you're right. We should at least try it. Let's get reacquainted. Armin. Jessie exhaled. The ice was broken. She hit it off with the kid, and he started studying hard. It wasn't easy, of course. It hurt like hell. Armin would snap, yell, but he wouldn't give up. And when Jessie took him out for the first time to the yard to walk in a stroller, Robert Alex could not believe his eyes. Oh my God, my son. Finally. You've been lying there like a log. I'd given up on getting you up. Jessie, how did you do it? The girl just smiled enigmatically. Your son is a real fighter. He can already feel his toes. He's making progress. If he keeps this up, he'll definitely get back on his feet. 6 months passed. Armin has been training hard all this time. Jessie gave him massages and baths. And soon he was able to take his first independent steps with the simulators. It was a real victory. Young people became so close, became friends with each other. They talked a lot. Robert Alex was immensely grateful to Jessie and had long since forgiven her for her father's debt. And Sam was finally on the straight and narrow. No more drinking. There was peace and quiet in the family. Except Jessie was having a harder and harder time working. She had a big belly. She was getting tired. After returning home for the first couple months, the girl still hoped that Charlie Johnson would come to his senses, missed her, and would come and get her, and they would make up. But it never happened. And Jessie realized that there was no love, and the groom just used her. The more she got to know Armin, the closer they became. The guy told her a little bit about himself. You know, you're right about a lot of things, Jessie. I've been selfish since I was a kid. My daddy spoiled me. My mom died in childbirth, so I got all my daddy's love. He spared neither money nor time for my education and my whims. I never needed anything. I studied at a prestigious university. I was into racing and motorcycles. In general, I lived a good life and enjoyed myself. And he didn't help his father with his work at all. He was pulling everything himself, working around the clock. He didn't even let Dad have a private life. He brought a woman into the house once. Susan, she wasn't bad at all. She was a good housekeeper. She tried to get along with me, but I was jealous. I got mad and behaved in a horrible way. My father couldn't stand it and broke up with her, and I was glad. From then on, Dad gave up on himself. He didn't think about his personal life. He lived for me. He was building a business, working for 3, and I was just living my life. I fell in love with a girl. I met her at a club in town. Ashley, she was a hottie model, legs from her ears. She knew her worth. I chased her for a long time. I wanted to marry her. But now I realize I wasn't ready to provide for her on my own. I didn't even think about what I wanted to do. And just before the wedding, I was racing a car and had an accident. I don't remember much. I woke up in intensive care. Of course, my dad was there for me, worried. And Ashley came by a few times at first, kind of sympathized. But then she honestly said she wasn't ready to live with an invalid. And she had a contract with a modeling agency. And now she didn't have time for me. So she left. I begged her. If you only knew how bad I felt, how angry I was. I didn't want to live. It was as if I'd dissolved, closed myself off in my grief. I took it out on my dad, completely pissed him off. I didn't believe I'd get back on my feet, that's all. I thought no one understood me, that everyone had betrayed me. And then you came along and turned my whole life upside down. After your story, I suddenly realized I had to get back on my feet to make things right. You see, I owe it to my father to be my father's helper. He doesn't deserve to be treated like this. He's devoted his whole life to me. I may not be able to run around like I used to, but I can do the paperwork and reports. I want to earn my penny honestly, not beg my dad for everything. And I want to be there for you. Jessie, I want to keep you safe from harm and misfortune. And to be your defense and support. The girl was very pleased with such warm words and recognition. But she had her doubts, Jessie. I'm going to have a baby soon. He's a stranger to you from another man, and you love him. I don't want it to be a strain. Then everyone will be unhappy. You're saying all the right things, and I'm very glad you've changed. We all make mistakes, but it's never too late to start over. You have to want to, she said. You're really the closest person to me right now. I've never been so honest with anyone, but I'm so scared. Let's take our time. Time will sort itself out. After Charlie's betrayal, I'm too scared to even think about having a relationship. I've been burned. Armin had a heart-to-heart talk with his father and started bookkeeping. He was so excited about it that he started to get good at it. George Alexander was very pleased that his son had taken up his mind. He thought he would never settle down. He began to praise Jessie. It's a good thing you came to me in despair. I didn't believe for a minute that this simple girl could last a day with you, and I was living on her father's money. But she surprised me. Admit it. What did she do? How could she change you? Armin smiled. I don't know. Dad, it's just that she was honest and I believed her. And I think I also fell in love with her. There's something about her that's so appealing. It's like she's got this aura of goodness about her. Seriously, I'm ready to raise her baby. I want to start a family with her. How do you feel about that? Dad, she's really changed me. I'm not interested in racing and clubs anymore. I want to work and love them all. She's not fat. She's just pregnant. And she's just so easy to be with. I've never felt that way with anyone. I think Emily loved me. But once the trouble happened, where is she? She's gone. That's all love is. I used to think the most important thing in a girl was her glamour, her beauty, her figure, to walk beside her and everyone would turn around, that she was mine. But now I realize what nonsense it all is. It's all about soul to soul. That's exactly what Jessie is. George Alexander was pleased that his son fell in love with a decent girl and replied, If you have hope, a family will work out. I'm only glad. I'll be, frankly speaking, happy. She's a nice girl, though not from the most prosperous family. But children are not responsible for the sins of their parents, so I'll support you in all your endeavors, and her child is not a burden to us. We'll raise a boy under them. Another month passed. Armin was already walking confidently with crutches. The dynamics were excellent. He was revitalized and wanted to live again, and also to prove to Jessie that she could believe him, that he was not like her bastard fiancé. At home, Jessie's parents also urged Jessie to accept Armin's proposal. Daughter, honey, you don't even realize how lucky you are. You yourself say that Armin has changed a lot after the accident. He's taken to his senses and is ready to marry you and raise a child. But think about it. This is such a chance to have a normal family. Their family is strong. Their father is a good businessman. They're well off. Don't be silly. Agree. The baby needs a father's love anyway. And not the father who gave the seed, but the one who brought up the children. Stop worrying about it. He cut you out of his life. You start a new life. Jessie thought about it and agreed. Armin was so happy. They had a modest signing in the center of Little Town. They had a quiet family dinner and started living together. Little by little, things got better. The guy was understanding and gentle. He tried even harder to study now. There was no need to persuade him. He wanted to walk normally as soon as possible so that he could be a support for Jessie. The villagers were no longer gossiping and shut their mouths. They wondered what the farmer's son had found in this simple girl from a poor family. That day there was no sign of trouble. Jessie was peeling peas in the yard. Armin was helping her. Suddenly there was a knock on the gate. The girl got up and went to open the door. She saw Charlie Johnson on the doorstep and frowned. So you found me after all. What do you want from me? Hey, Jessie, it's a window. Get out, I hear. I'm married. I have a family now. And I don't want to see you at all. The guy looked pretty bad. He shuffled from foot to foot and started complaining about life. But what are you yelling from the doorstep without even listening to me? Please, you don't even know what kind of grief we've had. The cafe burned down and the customers were hurt. One of them died. The place was made of wood and plastic, and it went up like a match. The staff and guests escaped, but this poor guy got stuck in the toilet and didn't manage to get out. Now there's endless inspections, and the courts and the IRS is here. We need a major renovation. It's ashes in there. We're on the verge of bankruptcy. Mom's in the hospital. She's got a nervous heart attack, and I just don't know how to go on. Who would have thought we'd have all this trouble at once? I don't think I haven't forgotten about you. I remember. We loved each other so much. I've never met anyone like you before, I promise you. But you see, I couldn't go against my mother. It was just the way it was. But if you're happy with someone else now, I'm happy for you, honestly. Why did you come here? I heard you got married well. You're living well now. I thought I'd repent. I'm sorry, Jessie, that was a bad thing we did. Why don't you step into my shoes and help me out with a little money? I ain't got nobody to turn to. When things were going well, it seemed like a lot of friends. Everybody wanted to hang out. And now they're turning their noses up at me. So will you help me? We're not strangers after all. And you're my baby, Jessie exclaimed from such insolence and began to shout and wave her hands. You bastard. And your mama's the same. What kind of eyes did you come in here with? You kicked me out, didn't you? I didn't even get paid the money I rightfully earned. You left me pregnant a week before the wedding. A baby, you say? You told me to have an abortion. And now you dare to ask for help? Get out of here. Charlie didn't even think about leaving. On the contrary, he went on the offensive. Oh, so you're talking nanny, are you? Have you forgotten how I rescued you at the market the other day? I'm not going to let you live in peace. I will demand to see my son, and you have no right to refuse me. The woman couldn't contain herself any longer. If I'd known I'd have to work hard for that money, I never would have taken it. What a benefactor. What about your son? The child doesn't need a traitor's father. Get out. Peter decided to step in. He walked on crutches to the gate and threatened. All right then, you've been told to get out. Nobody's going to give you any money, and forget about coming here. Jessie's my lawfully wedded wife now. We love each other and our son. I'm raising him with dignity. Charlie suddenly pushed Peter as hard as he could and laughed in his face. What are you? A miserable cripple who married you out of desperation. I'm sure she did. Who needs you? A helpless invalid? And she had nowhere else to go with her potbelly. So you two lovebirds found each other. It's a joke. You don't even look good together. You're a head shorter than you are. No face, no skin. You've got a protector. Peter moved forward and swung his fist, but at that moment his assailant kicked him. The boy couldn't hold on and fell to the ground. There was a cracking sound and a shrill cry of pain in his lower back. The lights went out and Peter lost consciousness. Jessie immediately began to shake him awake, crawling on her knees and screaming in a low voice. Peter, wake up. Oh God, you damn bastard, what have you done? You're nothing but trouble. Sam, help Peter. He's sick. The farmer came screaming and was horrified. You bastard, I'll sue you. You almost killed my son. Who the hell are you? Where did you come from? Charlie was scared. He took off right away. He ran toward the bus stop, not caring what he saw. The only thought in his head was, what have I done? What will happen now? They'll find me and put me in jail. That's all I need now. I'm in enough trouble as it is. Why did I touch him? Jessie felt sick with worry. She passed out. The pain in her abdomen caused her to go into premature labor a full month early. The ambulance crew took Jessie to the maternity ward and Peter to the surgery ward. Her mind was a blur. Her thoughts were jumbled, and she could barely open her eyes. Her eyelids felt like lead. Strangely, she felt nothing at all. No pain in her legs. Her body felt like a cotton ball, like a stranger. And then she remembered that she was pregnant. Terrified, she reached for her stomach, but it was completely flat. Jessie screamed in a foreign language, the baby. Where's my baby? Somebody help me. What's wrong with me? Just then her mom leaned over to her. She began to whisper, hush, hush, daughter. You've come to your senses at last. Don't worry. You had an emergency operation. Sonny is still weak, but that's okay. The doctor said everything will be fine and will only get stronger. We need to put on weight. I saw him, can you imagine, so tiny, but screaming loud, a clean-cut guy, only 8'49". The doctor says if he'd delivered before his due date, he'd have been a big boy. I was so worried about you. You lost a lot of blood. It took a long time to come out of the anesthesia, and I kept sitting by your side and saying prayers that everything would be okay. Jessie exhaled, thank God my little boy is alive. That's the most important thing. We need to get up here as soon as possible. I want to look at him so badly, to hold him in my arms. My poor baby is lying all alone without his mommy. What about Peter? Paul, the bastard, hit him so hard. I'll never forgive him. Mom, please don't say anything. I can see in your eyes you're hiding something. There's no need to keep me safe. Tell it like it is. Zena brushed away a tear and replied, but to be honest, Peter's not doing so well. His vertebrae dislocated after the fall. All your efforts have gone to waste. Anyway, he had emergency surgery yesterday too. The prognosis is still unclear, but let's hope for the best. Ben Adamson is, in fact, desperate. Paul has already been found. He's in pretrial detention. That's the way things are. Jessie's daughter nearly fainted. After all, her husband essentially suffered because of her. He tried his best to protect her. Why did he have to go through all this? She almost screamed. Mom, what hospital is he in? Has he been moved out of intensive care yet? When will all this misery end? One after another, when she learned that her husband was in the next surgical ward, Jessie almost jumped out of bed. She wanted to get up and go to him, to support him, to see him for a second. But a sharp pain in her lower abdomen stopped her. She groaned and lay back down again. Her mother soothed her. Come on, my daughter. Where are you going? You can't get up yet. God forbid the stitches will come apart. I'll call the nurse now. We'll ask her nothing. Everything will be fine. The worst is over. The nurse brought the doctor, who examined the patient and allowed her to get up a little. And most importantly, they brought her a baby boy. Not for long. Jessie took the baby in her arms. The baby was so small, wrinkled, looking like an old man. He pouted his lips funny and wrinkled his nose. Jessie asked, "Can I feed him? My breasts are so sore. My milk is coming in. He must be hungry." No mommy at all. Yes, Sammy, the doctor explained. No, we'll give you more medicine for a couple days. No feeding yet, but you'll learn. As soon as I authorize it, you'll be brought the baby for feedings. He needs to get stronger. He's in the cuvette for now, but he'll gain weight soon and be by your side. Your boy's scale scores aren't bad, so I don't think we'll keep you here long. I don't worry. Jessie kissed her son and held him close, tears of joy filling her eyes. This was what motherhood was all about. Only now did she realize it. It was her love for her baby that supplanted everything inside, creating a special feeling unlike anything else. The nurse took the baby boy away. Mom went home too. A little while later, Jessie got a call from Daddy and Ben Adamson. All congratulated on the birth of their son, wishing him and her good health. When all the doctors went home, the woman in labor begged the nurse on duty, "Please help me. My husband is in the neighboring ward after a complicated spinal surgery. Help me to get there." The doctor allowed me to stand up. I have to see him, at least for a minute, to support him, to tell him how much I love him. It was very important to her and to him. The nurse nodded her head negatively. "No, that's impossible. You yourself have recently undergone surgery. God forbid something happens to you. You could get an infection. I don't think your spouse will feel any better if you have complications. Isn't that right? I'm sorry for you, believe me. Here's what I can do. You write him a note, and I'll run down and give it to him, and you'll be relieved." Jessie agreed. She wrote something carefully and handed it to the girl. The latter honestly fulfilled her promise and went into the room. "Good evening. Who do we have here?" "Johnson Peter, the pale, thin patient at the window," I replied weakly. "Peter." "Ah, did your spouse from the maternity ward give you a note?" "She's worried. She's crying a lot." Here read her a few words. "But look, don't be sad. She'll lose milk now. After childbirth, a woman's body is exhausted, weakened, and she mustn't be nervous." Peter glowed. He opened the note with trepidation and read, "Beloved, how are you there? I wanted to come to you, but they won't let me in. I've had a baby boy. I named him Sammy. Do you mind? I want you to know that you're going to walk again. I helped you the first time, and we can do it again. I need you. I love you. I know that now. Hold on, my good man. We're a family, so we'll manage everything." The man secretly wiped away a tear and replied, "Congratulations, honey. Not you, but we have a son. Johnson Sammy Peterovich. So I'm going to fight to the last man. For you, for my son. Love you and miss you very much." Ben Adamson teamed up with Jessie's parents, and they took it in turns to care for the youngsters, bringing home cooked meals and supporting them. After 2 weeks, the baby got stronger and Jessie and her son were discharged, but she was in no hurry to go home, finally entering the room with her husband and son. Their meeting was so warm. Both were crying and hugging each other. Peter asked, "Hope, put your son in my arms. I'll at least hold him. How tiny is he? It's scary. Hello, my boy. Now you're born. Mommy and I will love and cherish you, and we won't let anyone hurt you. And remember, you're my son, only mine. I won't let anyone hurt you." And then Peter looked so intently at Jessie and suddenly asked, "I know you're going to argue, but still, if I never get back on my feet, I'm so scared. Then know this. You don't have to spend your whole life with a cripple. I want you to be happy, not to suffer beside me." The woman cried, hugged him, kissed him, and whispered, "I don't even hope to get rid of me. I will never leave you or betray you. I will always be there for you. You hear me? I don't need anyone else. And I don't want to hear that kind of talk again. I believe in you, and you believe in me. I'll talk to the doctor, and we'll go back to practicing. It's going to work out. So just hang in there. Sammy and I will be waiting for you at home." Peter was discharged a week later. Mom came to Jessie's house and helped with her grandson. She especially liked to bathe him. The baby relaxed in the warm water and closed his eyes in pleasure. Jessie kept her faith and persevered, and helped her husband in his rehabilitation. The doctor was right. This time, progress was immediate. Peter was on the mend quickly. It was like he had wings growing behind his back. He couldn't let his family down. There were so many people fighting for him, worrying and holding their fists. He and Jessie made it work, and within a month, the man was walking without crutches with a cane. It was a big victory. It's amazing that all these problems have brought the two families together. Now Ben Adamson and Sam were thick as thieves. And you, Zena, made yourself at home at the farmer's mansion too. Everyone had dinner together. Alcohol or liquor was forbidden in this house so as not to tempt Sam. Everyone cherished little Sammy sincerely rejoiced at every change. He already held his head, smiled, recognized everyone, and hummed. Surprisingly, Peter did not even have to get used to the child. He somehow immediately accepted him as his own son and was happy to play with him. I didn't recognize myself. I often wondered how fickle our lives are. Not so long ago, I was eager to leave home and spend my time at parties and outings. I hated the countryside, thinking it was the lowest of the low. But now I was ready to give my life to have my wife and son with me. I needed nothing else. It had only been a year. Then Adamson got busy dealing with the dysfunctional Johnson family. Peter had filed a complaint against Paul, and his mother was facing a considerable sentence for tax fraud and the death of a visitor in a fire due to fire irregularities. Moreover, it turned out that those robbers who had snatched Jesse's purse at the market then were fake. It was a long-running scheme. First, the victim was driven into debt in such a vulgar way, and then forced to work for free. Jessie was astonished. She thought Paul had really helped her out of the goodness of his heart. How vile were the Johnsons? They had all set up and forced naive Jessie into their play, cleverly manipulating her feelings. The trial was high profile, and my son and I got solid sentences. Their house was also sold under the hammer because of Paul's debts. He was beaten up pretty badly in his cell the first night and made to realize where he belonged. The guy had been a coward before, and on his own, without a powerful mommy, he was nothing. And now he was broken. The feeling of fear and doom never left him for a second. He now listened to the camera and broke down, as long as he didn't get beaten. He often thought of the cheerful Jessie, who had always loved him so sincerely and unselfishly. He even cried secretly and wanted to commit suicide, but he didn't have the guts for that either. Now there was nothing left of Paul, the false boyfriend. He had become a miserable, battered prisoner, and many more tests of his strength awaited him. I guess that was payback for all he'd done. Virginia Grace didn't last long at all. Anger and hatred were literally tearing her apart from the inside, not allowing her to breathe. Yesterday she had everything. She had manipulated people and sealed their fates. Now she was convict number 757. The woman became withdrawn and bitter. A year later, she died of a heart attack in the prison hospital. 5 years passed. Jesse and Peter lived happily ever after. The man had made a full recovery and was now farming with his father. He worked tirelessly. Sammy genuinely loved and considered his own. The boy was very proud of his father and tried to imitate him in everything. Jessie ran the house. Over the years, she became even more beautiful. The stately hostess spoiled her household with homemade goodies. Especially everyone loved her specialty dumplings with cabbage. She cooked them on steam. They were puffy. Everyone ate with pleasure, and the woman no longer worried about her figure. After all, Peter looked at her with such delight and called her his favorite. Jessie loved the village with all her heart. Everything here was dear to her. There was peace and tranquility in her soul. Ben Adamson loved his daughter-in-law and praised her to the hilt. He knew for sure that it was Jessie who could make a man out of his son, and he was very grateful to her for that. No one in the village remembered the time when poor Jessie had come home in tears and pregnant, that her family had been cursed. Things were different now. Sam and Zena, at least in their old age, had a quiet, peaceful life. In the evenings they liked to sit on the haystack, cracking seeds and laughingly recalling all that they had endured and experienced. They were very proud of their daughter, loved their grandson. Their soul did not ache for them. And this is the most important thing for parents. Robert had been surrounded by female attention since kindergarten. The girls tried to be paired with him at matinees, brought him candy and cookies from home, insisted that at quiet time their crib was next to each other. They demanded at home that they bought the most beautiful hairpins for their hair or weave into the braid a brighter colored ribbon. This frenzy never ceased. At school, this state of affairs only worsened. Not by years, a tall boy with dark hair and blue eyes broke the hearts of not only classmates, but also teachers from the fairer sex. They did not raise their hands to reprimand him or lower his grade when his answers were not up to the highest grade. Although his appearance did not resemble the appearance of an angel, he did not look like a demon at all. He was like a stately, humble Greek god with a piercing gaze and an enchanting smile. He didn't speak, but he spoke the words that obediently formed into correct sentences without stuttering. He studied easily, took prizes at Olympiads in all subjects, gallantly asked girls to dance at festive parties, moved amazingly during incendiary discos, turning any music into his obedient servant. Robert and Elizabeth were inseparable almost from the very beginning of their acquaintance. It was useless to drive a wedge between them. The girl moved to this city with the family of her military father. She was laconic in everything: clothes, hairstyle, school bag, pens, and notebooks. When the class wanted to make fun of it, Robert was right there. Somehow it happened that he took under his protection a little girl who stood last in the long row in gym class. The girl with gray eyes, 2 pigtails, tied with black rubber bands, for some reason caused in him a pinch of pity. A lump in his throat stuck. But this little girl was not a bad girl. She pulled the girls back, asking what kind of dense material she was made of. We lived in the north for a long time. In the schools there, they were heated in winter, but we still had to insulate additionally. Do you want to talk about it? The curious people backed off at once. What's the point of getting involved with someone like that? It's not worth it. She's too quick with her tongue. Robert grinned to himself and invited Elizabeth to sit at the same desk with him. It's free. I usually sit alone. You'll be comfortable. You can see the blackboard. It's the penultimate desk in this row by the window. In his soul, he had not yet settled in Elizabeth's address romantic notes, but he always wanted to take care of her like some young, helpless puppy. At home, he had a beagle given to him just at that time for his birthday. He had dreamed of a sheepdog, but their apartment would not support such a large dog. Here in their family, an appeared mischievous cute beagle, a faithful friend, selflessly loving later their masters and completely unpretentious in care, the sweetest companion with soft ears and a long tail. Robert was unusually patient with his parents, cuddling and nurturing him all the time. Suddenly he realized that Elizabeth was more than just a friend, companion, and sister in spirit to him. When she badly shattered her knees one winter when she fell on the ice, they were already in 8th grade at the time. From a small, graceful statue, Elizabeth began to turn into a petite young lady with the crushes inherent in her young age. The girl was incredibly stubborn. She dragged him home after school across a smooth, vacant lot prepared for digging foundations for a new building. "Don't go, Robert, it'll be 5 minutes before we're home. It's too long and uninteresting to walk around that fence, especially in this weather," she urged. He'd fallen for her pleas. Now she was sitting on the cold ground with her tights torn to shreds and deep lacerations on her knees, stumbled over pieces of rebar left behind by who knows who. He didn't hesitate long, picked her up in his arms and carried her to his house where no one was present. In the apartment, he treated the wounds, which after he had washed away all the blood with peroxide, did not seem so horrible anymore. They were 14 years old. Hormones were certainly starting to rage in their bodies by now, but they weren't what made him kiss her lap near the wounds. Tenderness nudged him gently. She wasn't frightened. She leaned over, hugged his head, and nuzzled the top of his head. "Robert, are you scared? It's okay. You've got tea in the house or something to go with it, haven't you?" "I'm starving. I'll never make it home," she laughed. From that day on, they kissed each other on the cheek when they met. They walked mostly hugging now, but without any hint of closer proximity. Peer girls were ready to wipe Robert in powder for the fact that Robert did not notice anyone around, but they did not dare to do any harm. Only sometimes they let out barbs. But the young couple could do nothing. Even stain their friendship could not, so pure and light it was. In the graduating class, everything suddenly changed. Both grew up and could no longer ignore the natural laws of nature. Robert realized that this was his first love. She was not a whim or a temporary eclipse brought on by young age. This girl had firmly established herself in his heart. It happens that even handsome men belong to the clan of those who meet their only woman once and are faithful to love her afterward for a lifetime. Let someone try to argue that this is a fairy tale. After school, both entered the university, he at the Faculty of Physics and she at the Faculty of Economics. In the educational institution on Robert again began the hunt. Having gone through the crucible of naive passions at school, Elizabeth and Robert did not even cast a glance at his admirers, and they, like snakes, hissed back. "Where's he ever been? He's at least in Hollywood, starring in a movie instead of Richard Gere. They can't be together. It's absurd." In one of the lectures in my freshman year, I was amused by a scene. The subject was common history. Different departments listened to it together, without division into physicists, chemists, geographers, and economists. Among the female students, as usual, was its star, its first beauty, its prima donna. She had bet with her fellow students that she would steal Robert away from Elizabeth in no time. She was counting on her striking looks. Men on the streets would crane their necks when they saw her in the crowd. She didn't mince words with the guy. She just sat down on his lap without even giving him a second thought. In front of the student crowd, not at all embarrassed. Robert didn't bother to embarrass the arrogant person. With an expression as if he had touched a nasty toad, he took her by the shoulder with 2 fingers and pulled her off his lap. "Don't ever do that again. My heart is occupied. It's about time you all realize that." Belle was taken aback. "Are you talking about that roof that's always dangling beneath your feet? Don't make us all laugh. What could you possibly have in common with her?" Robert's blue eyes filled with an angry glint. "Thank you, my girlfriend can't hear you right now. But the rest of us should know that behind your beautiful shell hides an evil heart that knows no true feelings. You're nothing. I don't envy anyone who would give their soul to you. You'd trample it for nothing." After these words, the curious crowd parted and Elizabeth came up. Robert calmly put his arm around her shoulders and said, "Come, let us sit in the other row. There's a foul smell of meanness here. I hate that insidious odor." Elizabeth did not understand anything, but she did not argue with him, as was her custom. Her man was young. That was a fact, but always very sensible. If he said so, there was some truth in it, however strange. He had also announced to her parents 6 months ago, in the same cavalier manner, "Elizabeth and I love each other, and that's forever. We'll quarrel a little at university, and then we'll get married. Our decision is not subject to appeal, so all arguments are canceled in advance." Both families lived modestly. Parents couldn't afford a separate place for their children. Therefore, at a general family meeting before the modest wedding, it was decided that Robert and Elizabeth would marry after the 3rd year of study, when the university begins training in a narrow professional profile. So they did. Further in their life, everything was very similar to the life of other families. They did not grab stars from the sky in material terms. At the end of their 5th year, Joan's firstborn was born. 3 years later, Catherine. Just like to write a classic saga, married, have produced 2 children, dreaming of a 3rd child. The search for women around Robert persistently continued. Even the boss of his mother's colleague laid her eyes on him. In his office hung his portrait. He invited the door on the key immediately locked in his fashion attire. Shows of new collections of local tailoring sometimes happened. The place specialized in men's clothing. The walking mannequin was a left-handed kid. The catch was that the audience immediately recognized his unconventional orientation. The audience started laughing. And then Robert caught the eye of the businesswoman. "We don't want such a nature to go to waste. And we don't want such a nature to go to waste. Young man only dress up, and the butterflies will no longer choose suits for clients, and this miracle to admire." Catch a Guy decided to catch a high fee, which intended to also include services of a personal nature for herself and defile on the runway for business. When I told Robert the salary, he couldn't believe his ears. "What kind of accomplishments? You offer me a salary 5 times more than my mother, a seamstress with vast experience." The woman once again assessed him from head to toe. "You seem like a big boy, bigger than some. I don't need to explain it to you. If you are obedient, I will buy you an apartment, a car, fancy rags, accessories. I will take you to restaurants and hotels. I will teach you to have an elite vacation at the seaside. You'll travel with me a couple times a year. Isn't that a tempting prospect?" "I think you misunderstood me." Robert removed her hand. "I'm not the one to make that kind of offer. Find yourself another easygoing boy, and don't let my refusal to get back at my mother make you regret it." The incident was over. The lady didn't bother him anymore. After her, there was a smashing master of men's haircuts. She kept trying to press up against him during the process of fighting with his unruly hair. He was so accustomed for his short life to such outbursts from the female sex that he never paid any attention to them. Nor were the pretenders to his heart offended. He was too good-looking. It's a sin to be angry with such a man. Robert, even in the university, disappointed in applied physics. It wasn't the way he'd envisioned it at school. All the 4th and 5th year in the evenings he went, as if on the 2nd shift, to the liquor factory to work part-time. They just loaded the finished product for shipment to the regions, and they lived in a rented apartment. There was a new monetary unit, 1 gun, or 1/2 liter for stronger drinks. Jokes are jokes, but Jennifer and Robert themselves were indifferent to alcohol. But they used it actively as gifts to a plumber for replacing a faucet, to an electrician for repairing the wiring. Robert was constantly missing at work. During the day he worked as a design engineer at a machine building plant, and in the evenings a loader. Jennifer sat with the children, smoothly transitioning from one maternity leave to another. She had not yet applied her talents in economics. They lived amicably. Robert got along with his wife's parents, Jennifer with his parents. The usual family unit. That seemed to be the end of their story. But would fate let them go without a trial? They were waiting for a loving couple. And what a couple. The attack of severe pain in his back caught Robert in the evening. It was a cold winter at home. He was still working at the liquor factory. Times were tough. Although Jennifer had put her eldest son in kindergarten, the younger Catherine constantly demanded attention, and was often unreasonably cranky. It was impossible to go outside with her in cold weather. Pulling pain with periodic sharp jabs in the area of the spine forced the man to go to the doctors. There he first heard a new word that became a diagnosis: hernia. As he understood from the doctor's words, it was about problems with the spine and discs. The doctors assured him that if he took care and did not lift heavy weights, everything would be fine with constant monitoring. He would live happily ever after. So Robert had to say goodbye to loading and unloading for now, a source of money. The financial situation of the family is somewhat shaken, and Catherine has not outgrown childhood colds, constantly either sniffling or coughing. District pediatrician strongly advised to take the girl in the summer to the sea, preferably for a couple of months. Otherwise, she would also be sick at school. Elizabeth, of course, found it impossible to go to the sea with only one daughter. It was out of the question financially to have a vacation with the four of them. The solution was to choose the lesser of two evils: go to the sea with the three of us and the children. Robert somehow in 2 months will get out to them at least for a weekend. That's how the three of them went to the more or less democratic Anapa. Robert stayed home to do chores. Since some time, a new tenant had settled in their house, a woman in her 40s, the owner of several clothing stores in the city. She moved into an apartment in a remote neighborhood, she said, so that the eyes of her husband, after a high-profile divorce, did not see her. The clever husband tried to sue half of the business from her, and the case with boutiques she created and developed herself. As she liked to quote the hero of the movie, Ivan Vasilievich changes profession by hard labor. Andrei and the yard-bright lady immediately noticed, and he seemed to her so flawless that she immediately wanted to participate in his fate. She invited him to work for her. Engineer, physicist, and fashionable business, two parallel planes. But surprisingly, he did well. His machine-building plant was living its last days. The technological lines were obsolete. No one, not even the most talented designer, could come up with anything ingenious to get this enterprise back on its feet. And the neighbor needed an assistant with decent looks, who could charm the partners with charisma and impeccable manners. Robert was perfect for this role. As for his wife, she just needed a deputy with an ideal reputation as a model family man. Her chain of stores was called Family. It stood for 7 friendly eyes. They sold clothes for men and women, as well as for children. Michael was very skeptical of her suggestion. He laughed, "Where am I with my technical education? And where are the clothes, new collections, all this glitter and tinsel of rags and accessories?" Jacqueline, on the other hand, was not so adamant. "Michael, do you underestimate yourself? Each of us should be willing to sell what we have in abundance. In your case, it's God-given beauty, so why not turn it into a popular commodity for the sake of your well-being? Let's just give it a try. A month's work with me won't cost you anything." He walked home and thought wistfully, "Nothing will come of this collaboration. She will again start looking for ways to get closer to me. And for me, such an option is impossible." The man was wrong. Jacqueline was a much wiser and more astute woman. She already had a young and strong companion for her health, but he was not smart enough to be seen with him in public, and her firm needed a male face. She used herself as a female face. What was missing was an idyllic image, an assistant with an impeccable reputation. Michael agreed to the experiment. Especially at the factory, everyone was on leave without pay for an indefinite period of time. Time was passing. Soon his family would return from the sea, and the house was empty. He couldn't make any money while his loved ones were improving their health on the coast. Jacqueline taught him the science of being, not appearing to negotiate patiently, to watch his speech, to dress tastefully even for a little money, to be able to maintain a conversation on any topic. She persistently dragged him along to all business meetings and brought him into her circle. After a couple of weeks, Michael calmed down. Jacqueline did not make any attempts. She diligently molded him into an enterprising business partner who is not lost in any commercial situation, will calculate ahead of all the moves, will increase the accumulated, save previously achieved. When Elizabeth returned home, she did not recognize Robert. At the train station, they were met by a respectable man in a strict, elegant suit, matching shirt, stylish tie. From surprise, she could not restrain irony. Where did such a handsome uncle come from? Then she rushed towards him and hung on her lover's neck. "No, you told me, of course, that you changed your job. But I could not imagine that the change in you would be so radical." At home, in a clean apartment, Elizabeth and the children were waiting for a set table, new toys, items of clothing, bought by the head of the family as a gift. It would be a happy life. But insidious envy is always around. In a barrel of honey finds a spoonful of tar. The range of Robert's duties included not only labor everyday life, but also accompanying the owner of the stores, Jacqueline, to corporate events held in her company and at the enterprises of colleagues in the trade. For some time now, Jacqueline had been obsessed with the idea of expanding the chain with 2 new department stores. She suddenly wanted families to be able to shop in her facility entirely without leaving the buildings and retail space. She was already negotiating for furniture. But even that didn't seem enough for her. In her dreams, she saw people coming into her realm for the day. In addition to non-food items, peeking into retail outlets with a large assortment of high-end products from farmers and private owners. Then it's off to a cafe, a pastry shop, to celebrate successful purchases with drinks and sweets. She even found such a chef that she believed in success in advance. His handmade cakes and pastries were amazing. Even adherents of eternal diets could not resist and sat down at the table with everyone. The business promised to be very profitable and promising. Only one obstacle hindered these endeavors. An official from the city administration did not want to put her signature on the authorization documents for operation. She was an impenetrable old-school aunt, with no visible weaknesses. Jacqueline went all out, pulling in all her connections. But the case was stalled. Robert's boss was quite desperate, but then she learned a thing that made her hair stand on end. It turns out that the Iron Lady secretly liked to play, went to neighboring cities to indulge her passion for gambling away from the prying eyes of fellow countrymen. Moreover, she was very fortunate in this vice of hers. The owners of gambling houses were afraid of her appearance. Luck did not leave her for long, constantly increasing her secret capital, but no one tried to prevent her. After all, Madame was from the highest echelon of power at the local level and could close gambling establishments with a single movement of the hand. Having learned such sensational news, Jacqueline immediately decided to give Robert a delicate assignment. She will hire a private detective to find out what kind of places this lady likes to visit. Robert will casually get acquainted with her and try to get dirt in the form of photos and videos of her game. Yes, it wasn't the most ethical way to get the lady to back off. Jacqueline didn't like it herself. But what else was there to do? In the fight against the enemy, all means are good, even such a sneak attack. The preparations for the operation went smoothly. For a good fee, the secretary of the administrative lady leaked the information that she had taken a few days of vacation at work at her own expense. All indications were that she was going on a trip to one of the cities where she could indulge in gambling. After tracing where the train tickets had been bought, Robert was sent on a business trip. He only joked. "You've made a commercial spy out of me? You've got addresses, passwords, where to go and who to introduce myself as. The only thing left to do is to glue on a mustache and a beard for conspiracy. And then we can go on the job." One thing he didn't tell anyone. Robert took home all his savings, saved for a rainy day, to try his luck next to his lucky aunt. Moreover, he borrowed a large sum from the head of security at Jacqueline's office. It never occurred to anyone that he was playing with his luck, and he'd had a large drink of whiskey at the bar beforehand. Robert sat at the table next to the lady from the administration and was terribly angry. She bet on one number or the other, chose black or red color, and almost always won at least a small amount of money. He, on the other hand, lost every last dime. All the promises of beginner's luck turned out to be nothing, and he was never lucky. The waiter kept bringing him whiskey on the rocks. His head was getting heavier and heavier. He had forgotten all about his mission. At some point, his patience broke. He rose abruptly from the table, pushing away the waiter who was just about to pour him another drink. With a hard look at his lucky neighbor, he shouted, "Fuck you and your administrative capabilities. I'm here almost in my underpants, camera carried to film you at the game, and you do not give a damn. It's all ha 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 until you've had enough." It was a scandal. Security instantly searched it and found hidden cameras and recorders. The official threw the money and instantly disappeared from the hall, not forgetting to grab the winnings. Jacqueline could not forgive Robert for the failure of the operation. That powerful lady couldn't. With some inner instinct, she realized who was so interested in collecting dirt on her. Jacqueline's dream of creating a nice shopping and entertainment centers crumbled into small shards. Now, when she met Robert in the yard, she didn't even say hello, deliberately averting her face. Robert came home like a beaten dog. The family piggy bank was empty. A servant from Jacqueline's entourage hinted to him that he would not wait long for the loan to be repaid. He would soon put him on the meter and follow him everywhere. At the machine factory, where Robert had a small position, they were not going to start the lines. Thoughts swirled in his head that his ex-wife was wrong. Where to sell beauty if no one in this world wants it? Only at the distillery did he have all the peace and serenity. Maybe he is weak, worthless head of the family, not capable of anything in this life. By all accounts, it appeared that his only dignity, loyalty, and devotion to his beloved woman. But he had nothing to feed her and the children. His feet carried him to the glass rows of vodka and liquor bottles. Where he had worked before, he could be useful. Why, his back was aching by evening, and he would bear it. His wife needn't know how he earned every penny. Soon tales are told and deeds are done. Usually within 2 years of working at the liquor factory, the family's financial situation has improved. Son Joan and daughter Catherine already went to school. Elizabeth found a job as a cashier in a small company. The salary was meager, but she could pick up her children after school, take them to classes, feed them at home properly, and check their lessons without rushing. The globe was spinning on its axis. The years went by slowly. The next bright burst in the career of 30-year-old Robert happened as if by magic. Apparently, the heavens took pity on his monotonous, like Groundhog Day, life. By that time, he had not bothered to find a more decent job. He remained infantile and uninitiative in this respect. He had little faith that there would be any change in his professional destiny. Elizabeth was tired of convincing him that Jacqueline's education and his looks could have been a good match for him. But he had been dealing with money debts for so long that he had always avoided any career opportunities, as if they were the hot milk of failure, potentially shaking his temporary well-being. Further events unfolded as follows. Robert's home liquor company began bottling a new line of elite liqueurs. In such cases, one cannot do without advertising, which the management did. In one of the pleasant spring days, the factory yard was filled with unusual noise. A commotion began. A crowd of curious people gathered. It's not every day that a real movie is shot in front of your eyes, a whole series of reels. Rumor has it that even billboards will be prepared. See how the bosses have splurged, whispered in the crowd. The workers must have had high hopes for those chocolate and coffee liqueurs. They're too sweet for us, too sweet, too sweet. They say they're aristocratic drinks for the ladies. But for us it's all the same, as long as the advance payment and wages are paid on time. To the surprise of the audience, an ugly scene played out right in front of their eyes. Some actor of the local theater suddenly got into a pose and began to argue with the director and cameraman. Why didn't you tell me at once that you had to present ladies' goods? This you spoil my whole image of brutality, my reputation as a macho on stage and on the screen. Find him among the workers, someone with a face, and shoot him on your billboards. What kind of whimsy is that? Echoed him in the tone of a confused director. Where will I find a suitable texture here? They all have matchstick faces. Well, how with such a hot drink? It's a Klondike to work next to them. The workers looked at each other resentfully. The sight was no longer languid, and they immediately became offended. You insult us, my man. You insult us, my man. Our beauties have their own glamour. Your acting is no match for his. There he is. Robert was passing by on his way to the dining room for lunch. He never liked noisy spectacles, so he tried to stay away from the performance organized by advertising specialists at the factory. But curiosity, as always, won out. The director was a master of shooting commercials. They could use an extra, even a popular model with a fresh face. The reality exceeded all his expectations. Past the improvised set was such a handsome man of 35 years that the director in the first moments dumbfounded, then quickly pulled himself together and asked to follow him in sprint. It would be a big mistake to miss such material. A man? Yes, you, I'm talking to you. Could you slow down a bit? I can't keep up with you, he said. To what do I owe? Robert stared at him with his impossible blue eyes. I don't have such a long lunch break, and there are long lines in the cafeteria. The director looked him over once more from head to toe. Oh, what a good-looking man. His breed, his manners, his impeccable masculine figure, his correct facial features, seasoned with charisma. He was ready to pinch himself on the arm. Such Hollywood standards with snow-white teeth can't just walk around an old-fashioned distillery unperturbed. Yes, he doesn't seem to know the price of his appearance, thought the director, and said aloud, would you agree to help us out? Inner instinct of advertising business master for some reason immediately realized that to promise this man a golden mountain from the jump is not worth it. Here it is necessary to press on pity, to emphasize the failure of deadlines, on friendship and mutual assistance, to tell about the deadlocked situation with the actor suddenly refusing to shoot, as in the water looked. At first, Robert did not want to hear about any filming, heartily laughed in response to compliments of his beauty and relevance. I have already once tried to sell my appearance as a marketable commodity. Nothing good came out of it. Somehow I do not want to go again in such experiments. Do not chop from the shoulder, tried to press on the pity of the director. If we had not had unforeseen circumstances, I would not have persuaded you now. You'd be a great help to us if you'd agree to do at least a billboard movie. Robert shuddered when he heard the amount of the fee he was being offered. The director decided not to be stingy, not to save money on a debutante. The man thought that this amount could be enough for a small trip to the sea for the four of us. Soon summer vacations. The children could use such an opportunity. 2 weeks later, huge billboards were hung all over the city, on which Robert drank liquor with the lady of his heart. Her role in the photo was played by a young student of the theater school. Pretty as a rosebud in her youthful charm. Both looked at each other with such love, holding shot glasses of chocolate liqueur, that there was no doubt. There it was, the cause of the romantic mood lurking at the bottom of the elegant vessels. Sales of the liquor increased dramatically. The director rubbed his hands and waited for the release of commercials. In them, the sweet couple also starred brilliantly. He was very pleased with the photo, talent, and unexpected ability of Robert not to look in the frame stiff. That's the kind of guy the camera loves. After the launch of the videos, Robert began to be recognized on the street, and the products of the factory began to be ordered to other regions. Women looked at the colorful picture and demanded that their men urgently try the magic drink. The fees of 2 random models increased many times over. In the office of the director, more and more often began to hear phone calls. Rising star, shown in a successful commercial, suddenly urgently needed and his colleagues. But he firmly kept the situation under control, took on the production of commercials advertising men's perfume, and then sportswear. Before, Robert faced a dilemma to stay to work as a loader at his native distillery, or to listen to the advice of the new boss and go into the advertising business. The scale was outweighed by a vacation. This time they were able to go on vacation, all 4 of them. Elizabeth and the children were over the moon. Robert even stopped paying attention to more and more often arising in his back pain, until he did not disrupt another shooting. He went to the hospital with a severe attack of intervertebral hernia. Life apart from him flowed in its own way. Good they were now, as they call it, with money, could afford to undergo a medical examination in a private clinic. The doctor's conclusion this time was not so rosy. His work as a loader had done its job. His professional trauma had turned into a herniated disc. Robert had to spend a month in the clinic. Through the efforts of therapeutic exercise, drips, and skillful actions of the medical staff, doctors brought him back into action. Before discharge, they admonished him forget forever about heavy physical exertion, even medium, sharp movements of the body. Otherwise, next time you will find yourself right on the operating table. The verdict was final, not subject to appeal. The director met his favorite with open arms. The man no longer worked for him on the bird's rights of the model, which occasionally invited to revitalize some video. Unexpectedly, Robert once proposed an innovative technical idea, then the next. Now he not only starred in his, at first, seemingly fantastic developments based on the laws of applied physics, but also came up with more and more new solutions. After he was hospitalized, the company somehow drastically reduced its management, drew conclusions. It was time to offer their talented generator of ideas a solid place in the executive chair. In the active labors on the advertising field, Robert did not even notice how the whole 5 years flew by. Joan has already had time to finish school. There was another significant event from a clumsy teenager. Resembling an ugly duckling, he suddenly turned into a copy of his father. Only his eyes were gray, huge, like Elizabeth's. History repeated itself. The guy was adored by all the classmates and girls from other schools, except that he didn't have his dad's stamina for attention from the female sex. He changed girlfriends like gloves, broke hearts carelessly, in passing, often forgetting the names and appearance of casual companions for one night. Robert and Elizabeth only had their heads in their hands. Joan heeded none of their exhortations. Preds. What do you know, honestly? I don't care how many girls I've had and how many more I'll have. They hang on me in bunches. Why should I deny myself the pleasure? I'm not going to go to school like you. I've already chosen the advertising department, which trains PR managers. I'll approach my dad's current business with more modern technology. But if I'm also invited to do a movie, it'll only be better. Fame will find its hero, or heroes. Joan wasn't your typical narcissist. At first he was shocked that so many members of the fair sex follow him in droves. He laughed I should take another shower. Is it in the maternity hospital? Or is it smeared for them? He was bombarded in social networks with offers, and in real-life notes and invitations to parties and picnics, youth parties and nightclubs, or to his home. Times have changed, he told his parents. You're like mammoths. Your views on fidelity, no cheating, are outdated. Robert and Elizabeth did not push him too much, did not bring him up, did not hurry him to settle down, to meet his one and only woman. Let him go out for the time being. It's a young thing, they decided. They were now much more concerned about an unexpected problem that loomed on the horizon. Their daughter Catherine had just turned 15. It was time to think about her future profession. The girl's mind was filled with illusions and fantasies. She decided to become an actress and went to the theater club for the second year. Last week, a friend of the teacher who works as a choirmaster unexpectedly came to the class. She was interested in Catherine, who was performing a simple song from the play at the rehearsal. The woman was impressed by her voice and took her parents' contacts. Later she found Robert and Elizabeth, met with them, and was shocked by the news. Your girl has an extraordinary, rare vocal gift. I listened to her in detail after that chance meeting. It would be a crime if you didn't give her music and vocal training. Who knows? Maybe we're looking at a future great opera singer. Robert and Elizabeth stared at her. Yes, the choral specialist nodded. You heard right. Your daughter has a unique voice which now looks like a rough diamond that will become a magnificent diamond. But Catherine is already 15 years old, Elizabeth said thoughtfully. Isn't it too late for her to learn music and singing? The choirmaster smiled slyly. It's never too late to become a singer, or to learn anything at all. It's strange that you didn't notice that your daughter has such a beautiful voice. Yes, singing never really stood out in front of them. Robert tried to explain his ignorance. Only at matinees in kindergarten. And later her singing I will not remember. The girl saw her vocation in another, remembered herself in the theater, in the cinema as an actress, hastened to dispel his doubts. Woman. And the decision, of course, you. But if I were you, I would buy a piano without delay and devote all her free time to vocal lessons. I'll find the necessary specialists for such a gifted child. I look forward to your call. The piano for Catherine was bought the following week. It's expensive and very beautiful. It's beautiful to look at and play on. Robert personally supervised the loading and unloading of the instrument. He was afraid that the movers would do something wrong. On the platform of the third floor, it seemed to the man that the workers were about to drop their purchase. What's holding this enormous thing on its sides? It's awkward, unstable, he thought. Robert lunged forward, picked up the piano from the side so it wouldn't fall into the wrong hands, and immediately slid to the floor. His eyes went black with pain, and he could hardly move. The movers frightenedly surrounded the client. One of them rushed to the 5th floor to call Elizabeth. The ambulance arrived quickly. At the hospital, the doctors only shook their heads. Too rapid turn of the body, trying to pick up a heavy instrument, did their job. Robert's condition could only be improved by surgery, for which the man immediately began to prepare. It was entrusted to a young, ambitious surgeon, Madison. Already in an hour, she came to get acquainted with her new patient and froze. He was so handsome. Madison, as is often the case in academic and career circles, had shown great promise since medical school. Her father was a brilliant surgeon, and her mother was an equally savvy operating gynecologist. The girl was already accustomed from childhood in the house to constant medical conversations and discussions. Other future as to join the family dynasty, for herself did not see. Personal life, at a rather pretty young woman, did not add up. Robert and Madison were a college couple who had married hastily, but soon divorced after a few carefree relationships. By the age of 30, Madison was left with a bad experience and a burning desire to make things right. She fell in love with Robert at first sight. He scheduled the surgery in 5 days. Madison went to work on her residency in confusion. She had a picture in front of her eyes, snow-white bedding, dark hair with barely visible sagebrush on the pillow, and startling blue eyes filled with pain. She'll make this man smile and forget his ailment. Or is she not a first-rate surgeon? And then there's his wife Jacqueline, who's always getting underfoot. A gray mouse with big gray eyes. What could they possibly have in common? After all, they'd been living together for quite a while. The grown children came to visit their father. Madison grinned wryly, can't push the wife away. I'm on night duty tomorrow. I'll take the bull by the horns as soon as my patient starts thinking and feeling better after the anesthetic. That day and the next seemed endless to her. She ran to Robert under any pretext, touched his forehead with a cool palm, listened to his lungs for some reason. The patient was indifferent to all her manipulations, reviving only when his wife appeared in the room. Nothing, my darling, Madison thought. You don't know yet what a surprise I've prepared for myself. By evening the next day, the surgical ward was nearly empty by evening. Elizabeth was going home too. There were some things to be done there. Robert's surgery was coming up soon. After it, she would be with him 24 hours a day for the first time. The children's meals have to be cooked, the house cleaned, the laundry done. Robert is feeling a little better so far. Now all that's left is to get through the surgery. Madison waited until Robert was alone. When all was quiet, she went to his room, where he was alone. The man was dozing uneasily. She snuck under the covers to the patient. The man flinched in surprise and stared at her with uncomprehending eyes. What's going on here? How did you get here? What do you want? Robert asked excitedly. Relax, Robert, his doctor whispered in his ear in a different voice. I like you a lot. Too much. But Robert felt only rejection, squeamishness, disgust. Are you crazy, Madison? I didn't give you any preferential treatment. I didn't hint. I didn't seek your favor. I love and respect my wife Jacqueline too much to even have such thoughts. Such an invasion of his personal territory was beyond his moral comprehension. So he pressed the button to call the nursing staff. Soon a nurse appeared in the room. Her eyes rounded at the scene she had uncovered. Madison was huddled like a snake in the restroom. The man was still looking around fearfully. After calming him down, the nurse snidely asked the doctor on duty, Madison, do you need my help or can I go? There was no response. The woman in the restroom remained silent. A little while later, she quietly walked out of there. Turning around, she gritted her teeth. You'll remember this concert. No one has ever humiliated me like that. Passing by the post, the duty nurse could not help but notice the ironic smile of her colleague. Tomorrow the whole department would know about the night incident. Madison had no doubt about that. So she kept a low profile for the remaining days before the surgery. She kept thinking of one idea. Robert did not say a word, did not show anything that could arouse suspicion in his wife about the night incident. He didn't want to upset her with such trivialities. He was polite but cold to Madison. The day of the surgery was finally set for tomorrow. The meeting with the doctor had already taken place. Only Elizabeth was a little nervous. After all, she hadn't sung for a long time, and tomorrow she had scheduled an extremely important meeting with 2 vocal teachers at once. Robert only laughed at Elizabeth's fears. The surgery is elective, not the most complicated, while I'm under anesthesia on the table. You'll have just enough time to meet with everyone and talk things over, Robert said. It's about the future of our daughter, Catherine. You have to be with me, and I'll be transferred to the intensive care unit first. You will come closer to the evening, when you have solved all the questions about the training of our young talent. That was the deal. Surgery to remove a herniated disc in the lumbar spine was not something unusual for Madison, so all her movements were honed to automaticity. She was a surgical professional who knew exactly what she could and could not do. Glimpse once again admiring the beautiful face of the patient, she gave the command to the assistants to serve something, bring something, and herself touched the nerve endings at the site of the operation so that no one noticed. In the protocol of manipulation of this nuance, Madison did not enter. After congratulating her colleagues on the end of the operation, she told the orderlies to bring Robert into the intensive care unit to observe the exit from anesthesia. A reaction to her experiment was to follow later. That was okay. She would wait. She was patient. At 3 a.m., she got a call from the ICU. "Madison, your patient is awake, but he can't feel his legs. Madison, come to us right away. We don't understand why there's such a serious complication." Stupid, the woman grinned to herself. "I paralyzed him on the operating table forever. But you will never know why he is paralyzed. That secret will go to the grave with me. Because a woman cannot be cornered by unthinkable humiliation. No one dares to reject me. Not even such a handsome man." Madison searched her soul diligently and found not a shred of pity for her patient. What's more, she only now remembered how she knew the man so well. He was the guy who'd graced billboards around town when her mom was into chocolate liquor. And her victim turns out to be a screen star. So much the worse for him. Now his business will be over. How weird is that? Didn't she take the Hippocratic Oath, which includes do no harm? Madison immediately answered herself. "I took an oath as a future doctor, and his nerve endings were touched by an offended woman. Now, your inviolable marriage, Mr. Plotnitsky, will you touch? I'll see how long it will take you both to portray the eternal, faithful to each other Tristan and Isolde." Meanwhile, Elizabeth was rushing to the hospital to Robert with good news. She had managed to arrange for piano and vocal lessons with both teachers. Already tomorrow, Catherine would begin to make up for lost time to prepare for admission to the music school. Her daughter was pleased. Joan was a parasite, he kept laughing. What a parasite. But it's going to happen. We now have our own Maria Callas or Montserrat Cabal in the family, he said, laughing. Then the three of them laughed contagiously, drank tea with scones and cherry jam, discussed that soon Robert would return, and life would go on as usual. Then the children went about their business, and Elizabeth hurried to Robert's house, remembering to bring some goodies for him. At the clinic, putting on a robe, the woman already approached her husband's room, where he was transferred from the intensive care unit. But then she heard the nurses whispering, "Lord, why should such a beautiful man be punished by God? I cleaned his floors, and he lies like a statue. Recently he was taken down from the intensive care unit. He can't feel half of his torso from below. What a grief for the family." Elizabeth's legs gave out and she flopped down on the couch. It can't be. What are they saying about Robert? That there are no other handsome men in the hospital. He's the only one having surgery today. Her head rumbled, soothing thoughts. But the heart couldn't lie. It knew the truth, and it bled like a wounded animal. Something had gone wrong for her husband Robert today. Fate had handed down a sentence that could not be reversed. Robert's condition had not changed a bit in a day, a month, or a year. During that time, he and Elizabeth had gone through several stages of acceptance. First, the man was in sullen despair, then in prostration, then in anger at the circumstances. He shouted at Elizabeth, "You must leave me. It is not proper for a woman of 40 to sleep in a cold bed. You realize I'm not a man anymore." Elizabeth reacted to his outbursts in different ways. She cried or, on the contrary, laughed, said that this is nothing, that this is not the main thing in the relationship between a man and a woman. She found new arguments for her husband. Robert, for a while, seemed to calm down. But inside he still did not agree with her, as it seemed to him, unnecessary devotion. He thought that she was burying her feminine nature, took on an impossible burden. He would surely figure out a way to free her from that heavy cross. Madison got off lightly at work. There was a meeting to analyze the actions of everyone involved in that unfortunate operation. Independent experts reviewed the entire protocol of the surgical procedure in detail. They found no medical errors. The patient's complications were attributed to his personal physiologic peculiarities. Madison continued to work in the department, even without a reprimand or reprimands in her file, as if nothing had happened. Only the nurse on duty that night, when the surgeon unusually visited Robert's room, suddenly decided to change her job. She found a position as head nurse on Madison's father's ward. Such a happy coincidence. The girl was smart, and she wouldn't talk about what she'd seen. Only Madison hinted that it was strange how everything with the patient turned out, at the right time in the right place. She didn't have a problem with it. All the more reason for her to feel like she'd overstayed her welcome in the ranks. A nurse with her experience would like to find a bigger position. The two women, Elizabeth and Jacqueline, understand each other and agree. Not long after the heated scandals and Robert's attempts to talk Elizabeth into a divorce, their home became suspiciously quiet and calm. The man was increasingly digging with some blueprints, inventing something. At work in an advertising company, given his early merits, such trouble was left for him. The place of a freelance technical development consultant was formalized on a remote mode and faithfully paid a small allowance called salary. Elizabeth was still working in her small firm, but as an economist. The salary was low, and her savvy helped. Back when Robert was in favor, smiling at everyone from every other billboard in town, she saved some money, put it in the bank for a long time at a fairly high interest rate. There was enough for bread and butter, and even sometimes their favorite blackcurrant jam. With entertainment, Catherine had to temper her appetite a little. But the children loved their father so much that they took it for granted, so there were no serious material worries in the family. After a couple of months of hard work, Robert asked Elizabeth to invite his colleague Michael to dinner. He explained that he and Michael have long had a warm friendship, so he wants to ask him to help with the launch of a new invention in the shooting of commercials. We had a good time. We recalled funny incidents from the life of the native company. Michael lamented that the face of the advertising kingdom could disappear from the screen, and then Long asked Robert to take one and another pose. He gave his resume later. My profession as a cameraman taught me to shoot people in a variety of angles. You've become even more photogenic, Robert. There's something in your eyes. So now we have to base our commercials on your close-ups. It'll be an even bigger success, I guarantee it. Michael was not the least bit mistaken. Advertising office furniture, in which Robert filmed in a huge office improvised boss, the public was accepted by the hurrah. Respectable and dressed with needle, a very handsome man with intelligent eyes created the image of an ideal boss who wants to obey unconditionally. And no one needed to know how to shoot immobilized Robert, laying cushions in the high luxurious chair of a modern manager. After the first experience began to appear other orders. Former magnitude in them was not, but decent money for the family to earn quite well received. Robert, as before, came up with some interesting additions to the technical equipment of the situation in the frame. Everything together made their commercials in demand on the advertising market. Elizabeth breathed a little sigh of relief that her husband had abandoned his idea that they should get a divorce. At least he wasn't having any more unpleasant conversations on the subject. Robert was troubled by something else. After that dinner at their home, he noticed with what sympathy Michael is interested in his wife's affairs, secretly asking him how she is doing. Goes casually on the street when Elizabeth comes to pick up Robert from the shooting. A slightly wild plan was growing and solidifying in Robert's mind. He decided to let his wife go so she could live life to the fullest again. For the cause took zealously, and became even closer to the handsome cameraman, and began to often invite him to the house. On various far-fetched occasions encouraged his attention to his wife. A woman's heart is not a stone. Elizabeth, who had long been ignorant of other people's attention from cavaliers, was susceptible to Michael's behavior. He carried flowers, candy, and fruit to her every time, as if he were courting her. When was the last time she had a date in her life? Over 20 years ago, and now she was living in a cocoon of constant moral fatigue. No, she thought. I have not fallen out of love with my dear Robert. I have always been faithful to him. But sometimes one wants spring in one's soul so much. It is so hard to give up its blooming signs that promise joy. Robert at all these meetings between the three of them was as unperturbed as an iceberg. He pretended not to see that around him hovering love vibes from Michael, and Elizabeth is often embarrassed and does not know how to behave. Moreover, when the advertising company has a loud corporate party, he suddenly said he was sick, complaining of severe back pain. When Michael began to persuade Elizabeth not to miss such an interesting event, suddenly came to life, fussed, began to prove to his wife that she must have fun this evening. And then only supermarkets, pharmacies, nowhere to go. At the party, where for once Elizabeth dressed up in her best cocktail dresses, no one cared about her and Michael. People were enjoying champagne and stronger drinks, snacking from baskets, salad boxes, and desserts. Elizabeth and Michael did a lot of dancing. Elizabeth felt a little dizzy. How long had it been since she'd had a close relationship? A year? 2, 3? She had already lost count, trying never to think about it. After a soulful evening, they didn't take a cab. They decided to take a short walk along the promenade. Elizabeth soon got cold, so Michael threw his jacket over her shoulders and tried to hug her. She rejected his attempt. This conversation is not working, Michael thought. I love you, Elizabeth. Suddenly, Michael took a firm step toward her. I realize I shouldn't be having this conversation with you. You're married, and Robert is my companion. From the outside, my confession seems mean to someone who is not quite healthy, but I can't help it. I am drawn to you with such force that I am losing my head. Elizabeth was embarrassed by his confession, but answered him honestly. The worst part of it all is that I like you too. I wouldn't call it love, but you touch some strings in my feminine soul. Michael looked hopefully into her eyes. Shall I take your answer to mean that I have a chance to win your favor? Let's switch to you after all. I think we can leave all this superfluous ceremony behind already. Elizabeth answered slowly, as if considering something. We'll certainly transition to you easily. That's not the point, Elizabeth replied. You have to understand, Michael, Robert is my life. My only man, the father of my children, my soul and my heart. Right now, I may have the beginnings of a simple desire. I'm alive. But I'm not going to cheat on my husband. He and I are what they call for better or for worse let our heads sit on the same pillow, like Robert's. He's already gone gray since his surgery. I'm not arguing with that either. I'm just covering up the gray that's coming in so he won't see it. Think about it. Do you want a woman like me? Is it worth loving me and wasting precious time of your life? Michael was more serious than ever. All remnants of the champagne he'd drunk at the party were gone. I'll wait, Elizabeth. As long as it takes for you to realize how you really feel about me. I won't even remind you of that. But you should know that at any hour of the day or night, the doors of my bachelor pad are open to you. Let you not confuse that I am 7 years younger, that I have never been married, that having no experience in family life, I will learn everything quickly if next to me will be a woman like you. Then they were silent most of the time at home. Everyone was thinking about his own things. They didn't want to talk. Elizabeth didn't know what to do. Should she tell her husband that Michael had confessed his love to her, that he had promised to wait for her if she decided to leave Robert? She decided against it. She never said a word about that conversation. Michael decided otherwise. He decided to have a frank talk with Robert because he doesn't want to do anything behind his back. He considers it dishonest. He will ask his comrade to let his wife be happy and let her go to another man. That is, to him. Stalling for an explanation he would not. There was too much at stake for himself. He was not really an ardent bachelor, had on the male account of a womanizer dozens of short-lived novels. But his heart was silent. As a professional cameraman, he could spot beauty, distinguish artificial grimaces. He fell in love with Jennifer like an inexperienced boy. The imperfect figure of the not young girl excited him so much that after meeting Jennifer for a long time he could not calm the rapid pulse. She wasn't a fan of makeup. Her childishly naive gray eyes were without a single dab of mascara. He thought that was even better. He didn't see any flaws or imperfections in her, didn't notice what she was wearing today. All he cared about was her mood and her condition. Did she feel good? Was she not too tired? When they found themselves alone without her husband at the corporate ball, he felt like he was on a date with a woman for the first time in his life. Everything he'd had before her had been erased from his soul, from his memory. He was starting his life with a clean slate in matters of communication with the opposite sex. Only this way, not the other way around. The moment he pulled off his jacket and threw it over Jennifer's frozen back, he decided for himself that it was now or never, but he had to talk to her. He had an acquaintance who worked at the clinic where Robert had been operated on, so he knew the whole situation. His chosen one, his Jennifer, should be living life to the fullest. She's only a little over 40. It's a crime against her life. That's what fate had decreed. The conversation between Michael and Robert took place 3 days later. In the living room, two destinies, two contenders for happiness, in love and in love for many years, came together, a cripple and a healthy, strong man, a man who had lost all hope and a man who was very much hoping for happiness. They did not shirk. They were honest with each other to the end. "I love her more than life," Michael asked. "Let her go, she can still be happy. I offered her a divorce when I found out about my diagnosis and future prospects," Robert explained. "She wouldn't leave. Let her decide for herself." They parted not as enemies, not as friends. Before they did, they called Elizabeth and told her that they had had such a difficult but honest conversation. She suddenly took offense. "I'm not a thing. Why are you dividing me behind my back and without telling me?" Elizabeth said. Michael replied that it was Robert's will. He explained that he didn't want to cause her any unnecessary pain. It was so confusing, so frightening. The circumstances proposed for the three of them were not impossible. They could even be called quite civilized. But that didn't make it any easier for their trio. No one yet understood what the decision of a woman who was loved by two worthy men would be. For several days, everything in Robert's house was as if no sharp, momentous proposals had come from Michael. The man himself had gone quiet somewhere, never showing his face. Elizabeth fiddled with the daily chores and paid even more attention to caring for her husband, but was mostly suspiciously silent. Joan's downfall. Another stormy affair, and yet another piece of news rocked them. He was offered to star in a commercial, also to be the face of the company, but a youthful one. He was bursting with pride. "I am also handsome and will soon appear on the first billboards in the city," he said. His father, having listened to his enthusiastic story about his first successes, cooled his ardor a little. "Son, beauty has two sides. My mother and I still turn a blind eye to the endless round dance of your girls. But at some point you'll have to stop, settle down, choose the one you want to live with for the rest of your life." Joan retorted, "Dad, you're talking like you're in the last century. Love is one woman for life. Do you believe in these fairy tales? Even though you and Mom have been together for more than 20 years, you have an ironclad certainty that it will always be like that." Robert shivered. He didn't have that certainty right now. He didn't know. What if Elizabeth still wanted to try a different kind of happiness? These thoughts were slowly making him mad. And yet, he loved her so much that he was willing to let her go. A woman shouldn't have to give up on herself. The atmosphere in the apartment was a little annoying to Catherine. She spent the whole day right after school, disappeared at music lessons, and then at home sang romances, which she now passed with the teacher at the top of her voice. Lines from a gorgeous piece were now being sung, touching the notes of romance in her soul. Elizabeth was washing dishes in the kitchen and thought wistfully, "Everything feels like it's pushing me toward Michael. Or maybe I'm looking everywhere for signs, pointers." I sometimes shuddered at the memory of that evening. I couldn't lie to myself. The dilemma: how to move on. After a conversation between the two men who love her, circumstances, as always, pushed her to the denouement. The video with her husband in the lead role took first place in a contest of advertising products. To receive the award had to be not anywhere, but in Chicago. That's where the competition was held, regional companies. With this news, Michael again appeared in their house, enthusiastic, handsome, with hope in his burning eyes. "Robert, Elizabeth, this is such a success, such heights. You and I must go to Chicago for this prestigious award. I will help as much as possible to make the trip comfortable," he said. Robert's mind immediately thought, here it is, the one that will make all the difference. Elizabeth must go to Chicago with Michael without me. I will let her go at any cost. Robert was a little miffed that he did not have to persuade his wife to go to Chicago. He immediately considered it a bad sign for him, a harbinger of the separation that would follow the trip. He was engaged in an inner dialogue with himself. What did you really want? That she would voluntarily enroll as a nun. You haven't touched her in 3 years. Robert moved defiantly into the living room to the large upholstered sofa. Elizabeth was packing her suitcase. No closet antics, no special outfits. Leaning toward restraint. This will be a business trip. I'll just act as my husband's official representative and go straight home, she thought. But then why had she put her prettiest lingerie at the bottom of the suitcase? She'd stuffed the bottle of perfume in her pocket, the one Michael had said at the party that smelled so good. Had she already made up her mind, and was she just fooling men? But after all, in her heart is still no answer to the question that concerns them both: who will she choose? In Chicago, in order not to waste time, Michael and Elizabeth arrived by airplane. The events were designed for 3 days. They would also have the opportunity to walk around the city. At the hotel, their rooms were on opposite sides of the hallway, but on the same floor. Elizabeth quickly changed into comfortable jeans, sneakers, and a long sleeve. Screw all the dresses and high-heeled shoes. I only brought them for tomorrow's ceremony. Charming Michael is not part of my plan, she thought. They had dinner right in the hotel restaurant. There was neither the energy nor the desire to look for something else. Before, Michael and Elizabeth had not felt constrained in each other's company, but now it was as if they had a bond of silence. They did not speak, but stuttered on every word. "Do you like it? It's amazingly picturesque," Michael kept saying. His favorite place of power turned out to be a fenced area on the roof of a high-rise building with benches, tables, and even umbrellas from the sun, which were now rolled up. Tidy, cozy, unusual. On the walls, colorful drawings, graffiti. Now they were here alone amidst the city lights fading into twilight, and beneath them was all of Chicago in the palm of their hands. A mesmerizing sight. After drinking wine from a plastic cup, Elizabeth felt a sense of relaxation begin to blossom inside her for the first time. There was a beauty in the change of scenery, after all. Conversation was effortless now. Michael talked about his childhood, about his parents, who lived in a small town near Chicago. They loved their greenhouses, where they grew several unusual varieties of tomatoes. When fresh salad greens appeared on the table, there you could find fruits ranging in color from orange and yellow to black. Michael pulled Elizabeth to him, kissed her. She did not push him away as before, but responded to his kiss. "They like you," Michael said. "Who?" Jennifer didn't understand. "My parents," he explained. "They're very simple, but they're also very warm-hearted people. They'll be easy for you to be with." She didn't say anything against it. She couldn't forget his kiss. And he realized it in his gut. They went to his room in the hotel. After that sleepless night of awarding a statuette for the best work of her husband, as a model of commercials Elizabeth remembered as in a fog, then she and Michael had nothing to stop them from being together for 2 more days. The man thought triumphantly, "Elizabeth is mine now. She will now leave Robert for good." There can be no doubt about that. He did not ask her anything about it. He was absolutely sure. They flew home in silence. It seemed to him that there was a complete understanding between them. From the airport they went to his house. Hastily, in 4 hands, prepared dinner. Again they locked in a long embrace. They fell asleep in the morning. When Michael awoke, Elizabeth was gone. On the nightstand next to his bed was a note: "Michael, I'm sorry I'm a jerk because I only used you. I had to figure out, can I do it without Robert? The answer is no. You're a very good man. You're very gentle. But my heart tells me I don't love you and I never will. There's still only room for my husband. Thank you for everything." He didn't understand anything. He reread the text of the note, looked around once more. All of Elizabeth's things had disappeared from the bedroom. Would she go back to Robert again? Michael didn't kid himself. A woman like Elizabeth would indeed return to her husband, love him further, understanding everything, and endure the hardships associated with it. And the fact that she gave a temporary weakness, it is understandable. Elizabeth honestly told Michael that she was alive. He immediately added another epithet of his own: real. Michael immediately forgave her and, moreover, did not have any claims to her, did not think that she humiliated his male ego. Robert woke up reluctantly, out of inertia. He did not want to stay in this world. After all, Michael and Elizabeth were supposed to return home from New York yesterday. But Elizabeth never showed up. So she hadn't made her choice in his favor. Joan had gone to a sleepover at a friend's house last night, threatening to spend the whole weekend with her. And Catherine was getting some sleep after the recital. Robert sniffed his nose and thought, how strange. The apartment smells like my favorite cheesecakes with raisins and vanilla. Is Catherine up at the crack of dawn and working in the kitchen? The man quickly pulled on sweatpants and a t-shirt, moved into his wheelchair, and drove to the smell of fried cottage cheese. In the kitchen, with his back to him, his Elizabeth was fiddling in a stretched homemade bright yellow t-shirt and black and white checked capri pants, his favorite. The boiling kettle whistled on the stove, so she didn't hear the sound of the stroller pulling into the kitchen. That's what a loving woman's heart is capable of. Like a barometer, it picks up any changes in the family atmosphere. Elizabeth instantly turned around and saw the happy blue eyes looking at her with mute adoration. She rushed to the man, knelt down, and embraced his motionless legs. "Can you forget and forgive me all that has happened during these 3 days of my absence?" Elizabeth asked. I could not resist. The native instinct of woman was stronger than my moral principles. "But I have learned the most important thing: there can be no other man on this earth, and in the whole universe, but you, and let only death separate us, but very soon." Tears flowed from Robert's eyes. He wasn't going to resent her. He loved her too much and wanted her to be happy. Even if not with him, but what happiness it was. His woman had chosen him again out of a million men, just as she had done then, more than 20 years ago. Could any new misfortunes ruin their love now? Michael asked her quietly. "So, together again. And now forever?" Elizabeth answered. "Yes, only like that, only together, my love." At that moment, the honored Catherine came into the kitchen. Like her father before, she too was attracted by the curious aroma. "Mom, are you making your specialty cheesecakes?" she exclaimed. "I'm the first to taste." She reached for the ruddy curds on her plate, not even bothering to scoop Elizabeth's sour cream into her cup. "By the way, my dear parents, why are you at the movies this morning? It's not like we haven't seen each other in 3 or 4 days." "What a tragedy," said Catherine carelessly. Elizabeth thought to herself that a tragedy could have happened if she had made the wrong decision, and Robert could think of nothing at all. He had dissolved into his wife. How good life is, even in a wheelchair. You just have to realize it in time, appreciate it, feel it. Sometimes it's even possible to persevere through tough trials. He and Elizabeth did. Vanessa was on her way to her mother Jessica's hospital. On the way, she was leafing through a fashion magazine she found on a bench at the bus stop. Rich, beautiful, and successful models with perfect makeup and hairstyles, dressed in clothes of famous brands, looked at the girl from the pages. Their beauty was so bright, so perfect, that Vanessa did not even think of envy. It didn't occur to her that she could look good in expensive clothes after a visit to the salon. There was no room for anything expensive in her and her mother's quiet and modest life. Her mother had worked as a nurse in a polyclinic all her life, with occasional part-time jobs as an orderly and cleaner. Vanessa tried to help her as much as possible. The girl never asked about her father. Only once her mother misspoke, saying that people like him would never get in touch with people like them. What did she mean, and what hidden meaning did she put in that phrase? It remained a mystery to Vanessa. In her earliest childhood, the girl had been terribly curious to know who her daddy was. She didn't dare to ask about him as a child, so she could fantasize about him as much as she wanted. The fact that he was not written in her birth documents added even more mystery to him. The girl grew up, and with her grew the role of her father in her fantasies. In time, she began to imagine that he spent his life performing important and dangerous tasks. He was strictly forbidden to disclose the family. That's why she and her mom lived in this tiny, forgotten town. Living in it, it was absolutely impossible to believe that some 200 kilometers away was the brilliant city of New York, in which life was boiling and beating key. And their life didn't even flow, it barely ebbed and flowed, finding its way among the eternal busyness of the mother and the quiet, imperceptible hobbies of the daughter. Vanessa herself didn't remember at what point she started writing down her thoughts, dreams about her father, and life stories. By the time she reached the age of consciousness, she had accumulated so many such records that it would be enough for a small book. Going through the records, the girl acquired her first dream to publish a book and become a writer in that order. After all, she needed the approval of her readers to continue. For now, only 2 obstacles separated her from the moment when the manuscript would see the light of day: money and fear. Fear that her work would not be appreciated. Are you kidding me? Vanessa couldn't say she was unhappy. Mom Jessica, despite the busyness and complete lack of money, always tried to pay attention to her daughter to please, hug, and cheer up. The girl grew up in love and therefore not so acutely felt the lack of some things: fashionable clothes, expensive toys, and sweets. Every weekend, Mom took the girl by the hand and they went to the park or the forest to walk, get acquainted with nature, feed ducks or fish. Once in class, answering the teacher's question, how she knows so much about animals, plants, nature, the girl told about their little tradition with her mother. So she, without wanting to, and without knowing it, made her first enemy a classmate, Kiara. Kiara grew up in a rich family, but she saw no love, no attention, no care. Expensive toys could not replace parents. Fancy clothes, lively communication, and gadgets, family warmth. The fact that Vanessa possessed all of these things, and therefore bypassed her, ignited an envy in Kiara that quickly turned to hatred. Thoughts jumped around in the girl's head like hairs from one memory to another. Apparently she was ready to think about anything but the fact that the bus would stop at the end of the ride. Vanessa would get off at the final stop and go to the hospital. There for the second week, her mom was in the hospital with no hope of recovery. The doctor repeatedly offered to discharge her home, to live with her family and friends. Vanessa refused. For Jessica's mom, she was the only family and friends she had. But there was no strength to support her mom at all. They were barely enough to drive to her mom's house every day, bring home cooked meals, and stay cheerful. Returning home, she would close the door and slowly slump down on it, biting her lip in pain. The nearest, dearest, and only dear person in her life was leaving. There was nothing she could do about it. One of the orderlies hinted for the girl to start preparing. For what? Vanessa clapped her eyes in bewilderment, not really understanding what she was talking about. And she did. For what? Not for the discharge, for the funeral. What funeral? What are you talking about? Mom will recover and will live like we used to. We'd like that to happen, but this disease doesn't give us a chance. You're wrong. You're wrong. Mom's strong, she'll be fine. Besides, the doctor offered to discharge her. Yes, to live to avoid spending state funds. The woman grinned loudly. Here, Derivianko, take this and you'll need it. And she handed Vanessa neatly folded bills. No need, we don't need anything. The catchphrase of all those who really need everything. Maybe not you, but you should see your mother off. I'll tell you everything in order tomorrow, or you'll forget something. I told you, you don't have to teach me anything or explain anything. Mom and I are fine. Only 5 days later, Vanessa sobbed in the arms of the same nurse, unable to accept the fact that she was all alone in the world. The old woman stroked her head and quietly repeated that everything would be all right, that Mom was now in a better world, she was not hurt or scared there. And Vanessa thought how scary it is when there are no close and dear people. Not at all. This nurse will wait for the girl to calm down and go about her business. And in a couple of days she'll forget about Vanessa and her grief. And Vanessa will stay and continue to live in a world where no one is interested in how she is and how she feels. Suddenly the nurse said a phrase that, in fact, turned the girl's consciousness upside down and subsequently completely changed her life. And cry now, you and your mother to bury, and father to support. Men bear grief worse, said the nurse. I've never seen yours. When she realized that she had said something wrong, the woman continued. Do you have one, your father? No, and never had one, Vanessa answered. How come? I don't know. I've never seen him. My mom never told me. But any other relatives? No one. Mom was the only one. It's impossible for a man to be alone. If your parents broke up when you were young, foolishly, and then your pride didn't allow you to reconcile, and your father lives somewhere, does not know that he has a beautiful daughter. Then Vanessa did not pay attention to the words of a kind woman, who, by the way, really helped the girl with the organization of the funeral. Advised and prompted how and what should be done. Without her, Vanessa would not have done even half of what she had to do. In the evening after the funeral, Vanessa remembered the nurse's words. Except to say search, and it's easy. And where to begin the search, thought the girl, absolutely no idea. And she decided to start with taking apart her mother's archive, a massive old dresser filled with various useful and useless but memorable things. Several drawers were occupied by Vanessa's mother's document school, leaving certificates, diplomas, letters, and photos. As a child, the girl often went through them in search of something interesting. Then she didn't pay much attention to old photographs and letters, half of which she couldn't even read because of illegible handwriting. Today she wanted to study everything thoroughly. Among the papers she found the deeds to the apartment. It turned out that the apartment had belonged to her for many years. A deed of gift had been made in her name, but the name of the donor was unfamiliar to Vanessa, and the date was approximately the same as the date of birth of the girl. After spending the night without sleep, trying to make sense of everything that was stored in her mother's dresser, by morning Vanessa was forced to admit that she had learned nothing new. The letters stored were from her parents' girlfriends. Vanessa knew Mom's parents had left this world long before she came along. Mom had been in medical school then. Barely self-sufficient, she was left alone. Then she'd found support in friends and a certain David. Vanessa was interested in the mention of the young man, but he was only mentioned a couple of times. Not enough for the man who later became the father of her child. And the references were odd. David brought her, drove her, helped her. It was like she wasn't talking about her lover, but a longshoreman. Unpacking the largest box of letters, the girl at the bottom found a postcard from a Black Sea resort. Strange, Vanessa said to herself. Mom never said she had been to the sea. The postcard was addressed to her parents. It said that the girl was doing well and the vacation was going well. Well, it turns out Mom had a busy life, and I saw her always busy, tired, running from one job to another, thought Vanessa. In another box, as if to confirm her thoughts, Vanessa found a photo of her mother from the seashore. She was looking at her as a young girl, no more than 20 years old. She was smiling radiantly, hugging the young man around the waist. The problem was that the young man himself was mercilessly torn from the photo. Neither his face nor even his height could be determined. So interesting, Vanessa said. So Mom went on vacation with a certain young man, probably most likely my father. Apparently their relationship didn't work out with my mom. She threw his picture away and never told me anything. After rummaging through the rest of the papers, hoping to find the second part of the photo, Vanessa had to give up. Dawn was dawning outside the window. She began to drift off to sleep. In her dream, she saw her mother young and cheerful again. She was running along the edge of the sea and laughing. A young man was following her with big steps. He opened his arms, trying to catch the girl in his arms, but each time she managed to slip out of his reach. Vanessa tried to see the young man's face, but it kept dissolving in the glare of the sun. Vanessa awoke just before noon. The June sun was shining brightly outside the window. She had to decide how to live in general and what to do today in particular. She decided to start by tidying up the apartment to take her mind off things. But even while she was busy with her physical work, she couldn't stop thinking about how to move on. Vanessa had a brilliant 9th grade school certificate and a red diploma from the teacher's college she had entered after a classmate, Kiara, had made her stay at school unbearable. Vanessa could not understand when she crossed the road daughter of rich parents and what earned her hatred. Just one day the girl hated her a quiet, unremarkable, excellent student who never said a word against anyone. Kiara turned out to be very persistent and inventive in terms of mischief. In just 3 years, she had developed such an active activity to turn Vanessa's life into a nightmare that the famous quiet girl had no choice but to look for a suitable school and transfer. It was pointless to change schools. Ciara had acquaintances everywhere. So Vanessa, at the age of 18, was almost a specialist. However, she did not have time to rejoice in her diploma. The departure of her mother made all the joys dim and insignificant. For a whole week, Vanessa tried to find a job by specialty in schools and kindergartens. It turned out that no one needed young specialists with a great desire to work, but a complete lack of experience. The money, which after the funeral was left very little, quickly ran out, and Vanessa had to sharply lower the bar of requirements for work. Now she was happy to take any position as long as she could get money for food. She posted her resume everywhere she could, but no one was willing to hire her. Finally, late one night, the phone rang. "Vanessa, good afternoon. You placed an ad for a job. Is it still up to date?" asked on the other end of the line. "Yes, of course," replied the girl, practically jumping with joy with the receiver in her hands. Are you not embarrassed by the offer to work as a maid? No, I'm ready for any kind of work now. Great. Then they'll be expecting you tomorrow. I'll text you the address. Try to be there no later than 10. The personnel manager is a finicky man. He doesn't like to be late, the phone said. By the way, are you ready to move to the employer's house? Yes, I guess I'm ready. Where does he live? Staten Island. In principle, you can come from home, but we have situations when you need to stay longer or get up early. Where is Staten Island? I don't know, Vanessa admitted, who had never left her hometown. Staten Island is a borough of New York City. That's the city you listed on your resume. Vanessa remembered that she had actually written that in a few sentences, not really hoping for a response. I probably won't make it by 10 tomorrow. I live in another city. Which one? Asked on the other end of the line. Having heard the answer, the interlocutor didn't seem to be surprised. In the morning, you will take the train from your city. It leaves at 6, and you will be met at the station. If you are ready to work, pack everything you need at once. What exactly would I need to be a maid? Vanessa asked. Ahead, at least the caller grinned and hung up. Vanessa sat down on the floor, puzzled. The offer was as unexpected and mysterious as possible. They were ready to send an automobile to the train for the maid. She was so surprised by this offer that she forgot to ask about salary and working conditions. And what was the point of these questions? After all, the girl had never worked. She did not even have a labor book. Besides, the money was enough only for a ticket. Well, it's not much of a choice to starve here for another week, or to take a risk and go to work in the city of dreams. I think the decision is obvious. I'm going, the girl said to herself and went to pack her things. Vanessa, who had never left the city, was faced with a very difficult choice. But what to take with her on the trip? What would come in handy for work? How would she leave the apartment? With the apartment account, the solution was obvious: give the keys to her neighbor to keep an eye on her. Late one night, Vanessa knocked on the neighbor's door. Jessica, could you help me out? She asked. Yes, Vanessa, what's wrong? What are you doing up so late? I already went to bed, the neighbor replied. Vanessa knew perfectly well that the neighbor was lying. No one knew when she slept or if she slept at all. She was awake at all hours of the day and always saw and heard everything. She was aware of every incident, every gossip, every scandal. Jessica, I have to leave early tomorrow morning. I'll leave the spare keys. You keep an eye on the apartment, Vanessa said. Where do you think you're going? The girl's first impulse was to keep silent. After all, tomorrow not only the whole entrance, but the whole city will know about her plans, if anyone in the city is even interested in her modest person. However, having judiciously reasoned that to go to an unknown place, without warning anyone, is definitely not worth it, she replied. I'm going to New York to get a job. We couldn't find anything here. We need something to live on. Are you going to look for your father? The woman asked in a bizarre way. Who? You know, my father. I thought he was from New York. How do you even know about my father? My mom never told me anything about him. There was nothing to tell. They didn't even get to know each other before she got pregnant and he ran away from her. How do you know that? We moved into this apartment when I was born. The woman hesitated. It was obvious that she was trying to find the words to answer. Well, people said that you were born to some important man. That's the apartment your mother was given. But your parents didn't have anything serious. I don't know anything else. Don't ask. You know me. I've got no bones in my mouth. What I would have known, I would have told you, the old woman said, as Vanessa prepared to ask more. I'm going to apply for a job as a maid in the house of some wealthy man. I'll write to you as soon as I'm settled. Of course you will. What if they take away your passport and take you where? To the border? Vanessa was surprised. You may be quiet, but you're a good-looking girl. Jessica, don't worry. They won't like someone like me, she shook her head. Well, you shouldn't be like that. Your mother, she was the same. All her life, Vanessa considered herself unworthy of relationships. Everyone was ashamed that she was raised by her mother without a husband. And the guys who were chasing her long ago, maybe they could have lifted her out of poverty. She'd be alive now. I feel sorry for Vanessa. The old woman really well treated the young, quiet neighbor, who alone tried to raise her daughter, Kiara. It was a shame that she, having lived such a hard life, had left this world so young. Vanessa's mom was barely over 40. However, she looked in recent years no less than 60. Classmates took her for Vanessa's grandmother, and only she saw her as a beauty. And here, perhaps also a neighbor. Having collected everything necessary, Vanessa packed a change of clothes, documents, and the rest of the money. The girl closed the apartment and went to the train station. There were only a couple hours left before the train. Staying alone in the apartment was becoming more and more difficult. A city station at any time of the day is quite a sight. Not for nothing they say that train stations have seen more sincere love than marriage palaces. Vanessa witnessed the real emotions of parting, meeting, friendship, and love. It's as if at the moment of the last meeting before the road or the first after the separation, people's soul opens a little wider, and only the most sincere emotions are the first to burst out of it. Later, when the moment passes, people become more reserved and reserved. When the train came to the platform, the girl turned around for the last time and looked at the city she had grown up in and was now leaving, without much regret. I must say, what, in fact, can these streets and houses mean if there is no one left in the city who is dear to your heart? It so happened that she had no school friends and girlfriends. Or rather, once they had been, but the incomprehensible war, which was declared to her by a classmate, made everyone turn away from her. For 3 years of this war, not only Vanessa and all the other guys could not understand why Kiara was so beaten up on her. The fact that a rich, fashionable girl could simply envy the quiet Vanessa didn't even cross anyone's mind. For some reason, it was at the moment of leaving town that Vanessa remembered her high school years. Probably so that she finally confirmed the correctness of the decision to leave the city and not return. Sitting in the station building, she decided that she would stay in New York, and if the maid job didn't work out, she would find another one. The main thing to get a foothold in the big city, and return to her native tiny town without the prospect of forever will have time. Having made up her mind, she entered the carriage, changed her clothes, and fell into a sound and healthy sleep for the first time in months. Shortly before arriving at the New York train station, her phone rang. "Vanessa, are you there?" "Yes, in half an hour." "Yes." "Great. There's a car waiting for you." The caller gave the license plate number and a parking spot. Sitting in the cabin, she looked around the city with amazement. It seemed that she was in a fairy tale. Beautiful old buildings, bridges, parks, as if descended from the illustrations of fashion magazines. And here, amidst all this splendor, she was to live. Vanessa didn't think at all about the work she had to do. She was not afraid of hard or dirty work. She realized that she could hardly expect anything more now. But one thing she knew for sure was that she was not leaving this city. From the busy streets, the driver turned into a picturesque area. Multi-story buildings were replaced by beautiful mansions. Vanessa didn't even try to imagine who could live in them and what kind of income they had. She heard that the driver called someone and asked which exit to take the girl to. After getting an answer, he drove into the gate of one of the mansions and parked the car. Vanessa sat in a small, cozy lobby, waiting for the personnel manager. He turned out to be a short man, slightly over 40, athletic and focused. "Vanessa, I'm the one who called you. Come on, I'll familiarize you with your duties, show you how everything works here." "Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to work and bringing me here. I'm so grateful." "You'll thank me when you've worked here. You'll thank me when you've worked here. You may think it's a tough job. A lot of people can't handle it. But in fact, if you try hard enough, you can do it all." "Do you have any cleaning skills?" "I hope so. I used to help my mom at work a lot." "What was Mom like?" "She was a nurse and a hospital nurse. I worked with her to make it easier for her." "Mom doesn't work now." "Mom died a little over 2 weeks ago." Vanessa didn't notice the man clenching his jaw, as if in pain, but continued talking. "I'm sorry for your loss. We have a somewhat specific cleaning service. As you can see, the interior is very expensive. So for now, your duties will include cleaning the back rooms, the staff rooms, assisting the kitchen staff, let's just say interning on the sidelines. There will be 4 other girls interning with you. Only 2 will stay on. We're not fully staffed yet, so you could be useful in other jobs. Is there anyone living in the house? Not yet. The owner lived abroad for a long time. The house was completed only last year and just the other day finished repair, decoration and design. So we are still recruiting staff. If you work and show diligence, you will have quite decent positions. Wages. Are you happy with it, by the way? I don't know, you haven't told me. I don't know. The man stopped so abruptly that Vanessa ran into him. So you left your hometown and came to an unfamiliar metropolis without even finding out the terms of cooperation? What do I have to lose? I can't get a better job. I can always come back and get a job as a cleaner or a saleswoman. What have I got to lose? Yes, only at 18 you can think so recklessly. It seemed that the last phrase was addressed to myself. How much will I get? Based on the fact that you are a non-professional, inexperienced employee, plus you will live here and be provided with uniforms and food, about $50,000 a month. For the first month you will work without days off, the man warned when he saw the girl's face stretch after the sum was announced. Are you serious? For a maid's job plus food, lodging and clothing is a dream. I don't quite understand you. Are you against it? I'm all for it. Yes, we're ready to work weekends, but also without lunch and sleep. Yes, just leave me alone. So you're happy with the terms? Yes. Great. Here's your room being set up. I'll see you downstairs in an hour. There'll be a general briefing and staff introductions. I'll be alone in the room? Of course. This isn't a dormitory. The landlord has a very human attitude towards people, including the servants. Thank you very much. Vanessa pressed herself against the man in a grateful impulse and felt for a moment that he wanted to respond to the embrace, but held back. Maybe in a hug, too. I think it's unnecessary, the man began, but Vanessa didn't listen. Thank you again. I'll do my best. I hope to see you in an hour. The uniforms are in the closet. For the first few minutes, Vanessa couldn't believe her happiness. More demanding girls might have thought, how can anyone be excited about the prospect of being a maid? But to her, it was fabulous luck, and she didn't want to miss the opportunity. Half an hour later, she was ready and standing in the hallway, trying to remember how to get to the lobby where all the staff was supposed to gather. The corridor was empty. It was quiet outside the room doors. The girl regretted not looking around as she walked and completely forgot to ask for directions to the lobby. Finally, she managed to get to the stairs, going down into a spacious room. The employees were already starting to gather there. Several girls, apparently also maids, were already drinking, getting acquainted and chatting. Besides them were the cook, several of his assistants, the gardener, the guards, the head maid, and the driver, who had brought Vanessa. The girl was just about to approach the others to get acquainted, but at that moment the man who was introducing her to the house walked in. Suddenly she realized that she hadn't even asked his name. That's a really strange impression she made on him, without asking his name, or working conditions, or the size of his salary. But she packed up and drove from her hometown to huge New York. Good afternoon, colleagues. I'm Alan, the house manager. I'm going to introduce you to the house rules. Most of the information you've already received. In addition, each of you has a small handout in your room regarding your responsibilities. I suggest you study them, especially for those who have no experience. The house is new, and the owners will move in only in a month. During this time, you and I need to get used to it and learn to work together as a team. You'll find the daily schedule in the room. We'll start living by it tomorrow. Today, familiarization with the house, responsibilities. I warn at once, personal relations, violation of discipline, bad habits, the reason for dismissal without clarification. For all this, you will have a weekend in the house. You are obliged to behave with dignity. The master is a man strict, conservative. Living in the house, he will be with his spouse and son. Perhaps his son's sweetheart will live in the house. How old are they all? One of the maid girls asked. The master's name is David. He and his wife Addison are 45. His son Matthew is 23. His girlfriend Ciara is just over 18. If I'm not mistaken. Our host is the owner of a large gemstone mining and processing corporation. His wife is the owner of a jewelry manufacturing firm. His son has recently finished his studies in England and will help his father in his business. But for any questions, you should contact me. Try to keep contact with family members to a minimum. They are reserved people, and this many strangers is also very stressful for them. They will bring in a staff member to clean their private rooms and serve at the table. It's complicated, said one of the girls. If you are not satisfied with these complications, you can always tell me and we will find a replacement for you, the man said calmly. No, I'm fine with it. Vanessa listened and could not believe her own ears. How far this world was from the one she lived in. Vanessa spent half the day learning the rules and duties, the routines. She walked around the part of the house where she was to work. Vanessa got to know all the staff. She was in such a confused state that she could not fully comprehend the amount of change that had taken place in her life. Perhaps it is only when you are young that you can be so carefree to enjoy everything and change your life so easily. From the next day, her labor career began. Accustomed to labor, the girl did not experience special difficulties, quickly performing the entire amount of work. It was for this that the other maids began to dislike her. The work, designed for the whole day, she performed in a few hours, not distracted by conversations. As a result, Alan began to grumble at the others, who were much less eager to work than Vanessa. By the end of the month, the entire staff had settled in, learned their duties, and established interpersonal relationships. Fortunately, fears of romance at work were completely unfounded. Almost all of the adult staff were married, and the maid girls were not interested in the single Alan, the driver, an unloved and withdrawn guy in his 30s. He was also to fulfill the duties of a security guard should the need arise. From one day to the next, the arrival of the family was awaited. Their rooms were ready the day before their arrival. Their assistant Chloe arrived to check on the final preparations. She appeared to be a stern and collected woman whose age was impossible to determine. She was equally likely to be in her 30s or 50s. One day, Vanessa decided to ask Alan a question that had been bothering her for a long time. Alan, please tell me, why do you never call anyone by their middle name, everyone, including yourself? Do you introduce only by first name? It's a habit we picked up while we were living in England. There are no middle names there. Everyone calls each other by first or last name. David and Addison should be called that too, but I told you not to go near them yet. I remember. The arrival of the hosts was not a special event for the staff. The cook cooked lunch, got orders for dinner. Chloe herself gave all the orders, working surprisingly well with Alan. The young maid girl suggested that they might well be having an affair. For dinner, they waited for the arrival of Ciara, the future daughter-in-law of the owners. The girl had been born and raised in Russia, but had spent the last few years in England, where she had met Matthew. The girl's father had a brilliant career, so she was a favorable party. She was to be surprised and charmed. What was Vanessa's surprise when she recognized her former classmate in the girl who arrived, the same one who had made her school years a living hell. Vanessa realized that as soon as Ciara saw her and recognized her, her days in this house would be numbered. So she had to do everything to make sure that the girl, the daughter-in-law of the master's son, did not notice her. Fortunately, the young people just a couple of weeks later went on vacation to one of the resorts. Sitting in the city in the summer was really unbearable. One day Vanessa came running into one of the rooms, checking the dust on the top shelf of a massive closet. Getting to it with her short stature was impossible. She had to use a small ladder. Engrossed in her work, she didn't immediately notice she wasn't alone in the room. That's why when Matthew, who was watching her, coughed softly, she flinched, lost her balance, and fell down the stairs. Although the stairs were not high, the bruise from the fall could have been quite painful and serious if Matthew hadn't caught her on the fly. Tall and athletic, he picked up the petite girl as if she were nothing. For a few moments he held her in his arms, keeping his admiring gaze on her. It was the first time Vanessa had ever caught such a look of admiration. Since high school, she had been accustomed to thinking of herself as inconspicuous, unassuming, unworthy of attention. In college, the situation was no different. The few boys paid no attention to her, which combined with her unremarkable appearance made her insecure. But now, when she was held in the arms of a stunningly handsome, tall, strong and confident young man, literally eating her up with his eyes, Vanessa felt confident, strong and charming, as if she were wearing a stunning outfit rather than a modest uniform. "I apologize if I startled you," Matthew said. His voice was like black velvet, enveloping me with softness. Vanessa said, "I'm very grateful to you. Could you put me down on the floor? Someone might come in. It would be a bad situation. I can explain everything to them." Matthew didn't seem to think of obeying her request, as if he realized that what she was saying was the exact opposite of what she wanted. "I have to insist," she said. Putting Vanessa on the floor, he held her in his arms for a few moments, pressing her gently against him and not letting her break free. Unable to tear her gaze away from him, Vanessa admired the perfect appearance of her master's son. Those rare moments when she did get to see him, she thought only of avoiding Kiara's eyes. Looking at her fiancé was something Vanessa dared not think about. But now she stood in the embrace of his strong arms and could think of nothing but how beautiful these moments were. As if with great regret, the young man unclasped his hands, releasing the girl. It should be noted, he did it very timely. Vanessa had no sooner taken a couple of steps toward the door than Lucinda entered the living room through the other entrance. "Honey, there you are. I've been looking all over for you," she said. Hearing the familiar voice behind her, Vanessa hurried to retrace her steps and hide in the nearest room. Closing the door and leaning against it, she tried to calm her frantic heartbeat for a few minutes. She herself couldn't answer exactly what caused it, the unexpected meeting with Kiara or the embrace of her fiancé. I should be more careful, Vanessa thought. Today she'll notice me, tomorrow she'll remember me. And the day after tomorrow I'll go back to my small town. Since that day the girl tried her best not to be seen by any of the owners of the house, but it was much more difficult to command her heart. And is it possible at the age of 18? Vanessa fell in love with the son of the owner and could not command her heart not to long for the handsome young man, despite the fact that she had no chance to reciprocate. The next week passed relatively quietly. Matthew and Ciara went to Peterhof and stayed there for a week at the boyfriend's friend's house. Vanessa got a break and could move around the house more or less calmly and fulfill her duties with full dedication. The girl also saw the owners rarely and hardly ever encountered them in person. Alan, noting the responsibility of the staff, periodically made small changes in the staff or reassignment of duties. For example, Vanessa was assigned to clean the guest rooms and all those rooms where the owners were present. And although in this case the probability of crossing with them increased, the girl did not dare to disobey the manager. To avoid being accused of something terrible, Vanessa decided to tell Alan about what Kiara had done to her. "What was the reason?" the man asked after listening to her story. "I don't know. As far as I could tell, the guys didn't know either. It was just something she didn't like. And then she found all sorts of reasons to hate me more and more." "Well, she's gone now, so you can work in peace." "Well, she's gone. Besides, they're getting married in the fall, and then they're going on a honeymoon, after which she'll start school. She won't have time for you. She probably doesn't remember you." "How long has it been since you've seen her?" "A little over 3 years." At the mention of the upcoming wedding of her lover and former classmate, Vanessa's legs nearly gave out. She didn't think the happy event would happen so soon. "Don't worry. It's good that you warned me. Don't worry. How come you were in the same class as her?" Her dad was from the local government back then and wanted to show how close he was to the people, which didn't stop his daughter from showing us what dirt we are, basically. "Yeah, tough luck for you. But why have I learned to ignore people like Ciara? Like your mom?" The man's voice broke out involuntarily, but he didn't even seem to notice. "How do you know what my mom was like?" Vanessa was surprised. "You told me." It was obvious that Alan was embarrassed and didn't know what to say. Maybe he said at last. The next day, Vanessa met the owner of the house for the first time. She was cleaning the table of photos, humming her mother's favorite song. At that moment, David entered the room. "Jessica," he said involuntarily when he saw the girl. "No, I'm Vanessa," I'm sorry, I didn't know you'd be home at this time. Alan told us to do the cleaning in your absence. That's okay. Go ahead and work. I won't interrupt you. You just remind me of someone I know. My mom's name was Jessica, David said unexpectedly. Vanessa continued working. At Alan's insistence, the staff tried not to engage in conversation with the owner. She didn't see the man's face change, as if he had seen a ghost in front of him. The next day, Alan told her that Chloe and the landlady were away on business, and in their absence she would be responsible for cleaning the owner's rooms. Why me? I thought I was only allowed to clean the hallways and the living room. It's David's personal order, Alan replied. It was obvious that he was not happy with this decision. Vanessa was not going to argue with her boss, so she went to clean David's room, assuming that he had already left for work. The huge apartment, furnished in classical style, decorated in gray pastel colors, reminded her of a trip to a museum. She spent a few minutes looking at the rich furnishings, which were different from what was in the rest of the house. That was why she did not immediately notice that her host had not left, but was sitting in a deep armchair by the window, apparently immersed in his thoughts. The girl's first impulse was to go out and return later. But at that moment the man raised his hand, in which he held an old photo from his seat. It was perfectly visible who was depicted on it. The black and white photo showed a happy couple standing, embraced on the seashore. The young man was David, only much younger by about 20 years. And the girl Vanessa recognized her mother. It was the very photo she had found after her mom's funeral. Only in her mom's photo, the man was ripped off. Unable to restrain the first impulse, the girl said, "Where did you get a photo of my mom?" David flinched. He seemed to be so absorbed in his thoughts that he didn't notice her entering. Quickly putting the photo away, he stood up and got ready to leave the room. "You didn't answer," Vanessa stopped him. "You made a mistake. That's me and my wife when we were young. My mom has the exact same photo, only you're torn off. And your wife is the same height as you. That's my petite mom in the photo. How do you know her?" Vanessa looked into the man's eyes. Many times she had read in books that in the eyes you can find the answer to all questions, and she had never understood how that was possible. Now, looking at the pain reflected in them, the girl realized what the man could not say out loud. "You're my father," she said. David took a deep breath and turned away from the window. Apparently it was easier for him to talk that way. "Yes, but I didn't know Jessica had a baby for a long time. When we broke up, I had Alan keep an eye on her, watch her from afar, help her if she needed it. A year later, however, he told me he'd met Jessica. She absolutely refused any help or any mention of me at all. It turns out he didn't stop looking after you. When you were orphaned, he was the one who made sure you were placed in our home. And you didn't know about this?" "No, not until yesterday. He wanted to keep you close so you wouldn't get into trouble. He hoped I wouldn't recognize you. Basically, he had the right idea. We weren't planning on living in this house for long. The chances of us crossing paths were minimal. But why did you and Mom break up? Do you have any idea? I had a family, a kid, Jessica. And Jessica was just a temporary fling. A distraction from the family routine," the girl finished harshly. "No, you're wrong," David objected. "She was never just an infatuation for me. Not her. She and I met here in Chicago. She was visiting the museum, and I had business nearby. We bumped into each other, got to talking. Then walked around the city until midnight. I just lost my head so much that I sent my family overseas and flew on vacation with Jessica. She was so sweet, so pure, so light, so trusting. I was serious about divorcing Addison and marrying your mom. What stopped you from doing that?" "My father. When he found out what I was doing, he was quick to bring me back down to earth. Our business was completely dependent on Addison's father. If I'd left her, my father-in-law would have left us with nothing, at best. At worst, we'd be found somewhere out of town. And it wasn't just my life I was risking. Jessica wouldn't have survived either." I couldn't lie any further, so I told the truth. She was broken and crushed. In the end, she asked me to leave her and never come into her life again. I couldn't just let her disappear. I offered to move to Chicago so I could see her once in a while. And what did she do? Did you know your mother well? She refused, Vanessa replied. Of course she did. I haven't seen her since, but my father asked Alan to keep an eye on her. Well, you know the rest. I saw the deed to the apartment, so Alan gave it to me. I didn't realize who he was at the time. I see now. Maybe he didn't tell me about it. I didn't know about you until yesterday. I mean, the best person to ask is Alan, I guess. I was having a hard time with our breakup. I wanted to go to her and apologize, but suddenly I got the news that Matthew was very ill. I got on the same flight to see him. My father did everything he could to save Matthew, and I came back as late as possible. When I got back, Alan said Jessica was missing, and he couldn't find any trace of her. That's probably when you showed up, and that's how he kept you from me. Maybe he did the right thing. Knowing that my beloved had a child with me, I could hardly resist leaving everything for you. But you had a child in your family too. Yes, I did, David said absently, and turned back to the window. Vanessa decided that the conversation was over and left the room quietly. As she was about to close the door, she realized and asked, "Can I continue working here?" "I won't say anything to anyone, I promise." "You're just like your mother." "You're not a mercenary," David replied. "I don't know what you mean." "Of course you can stay, but promise not to tell anyone about anything. If I may, it's going to be hard to explain now." Back in her room, Vanessa took a long time to come to her senses. The man she had never dreamed of meeting turned out to be her master, the owner of a huge fortune and family. Vanessa tried not to think about it at all. After all, now it turned out that she had fallen in love with her own brother for the first time. Now her love was not only unrequited, hopeless, but also criminal. Incestuous. She had to forbid herself to even think about it. The ideal would be to quit this house and forget this family like a bad dream. About demanding something from her father, the girl did not even think about it. After sitting in the room for about half an hour, Vanessa decided to find Alan and consult with him. Besides, she wanted to question him, because he almost certainly knew she was the owner's daughter when he invited her to work in his house. Besides, she hadn't fulfilled her duties, and she was used to working responsibly. Right now, though, the thing she wanted most was to pack her things and leave for her hometown. Probably my mother also decided almost 20 years ago, when she refused all the benefits offered by my father, refused to destroy his family. Although she herself, with great difficulty, was able to raise her daughter on her feet. Maybe that's why she left life so early? There was a knock at the door. Vanessa realized she'd been in the room for quite some time. Did they notice her absence? Alan was at the door. "We need to talk," he said, and gestured for her to follow him. Vanessa thought it would be about her and the fact that she had learned the secret of her birth. However, judging by how tense and even angry the man was, the girl guessed that something similar had happened. "What do you think you're doing?" Alan asked. "What are you talking about?" Vanessa feigned innocence. "And pretending to be an innocent fool. And pretending to be an innocent fool. She's making a spectacle of herself here, saying that Ciara might slander you, and she's hanging herself around Matthew's neck." "I didn't hang myself. I fell down the stairs. He caught me. And at 12 this afternoon, I've been bombarded with questions about who he is and where he's from. I don't know where he is or how he's acting. I was checking the dust in the closet. Standing on the stairs, he quietly walked in. I lost my balance, almost fell. That's the whole story of our interaction. I swear to you. Learn, girl. I won't allow you to interfere in the lives of family members." "You won't? Then why did you bring me here? Or are you telling me you didn't know who the owner was? Or didn't you buy my mom an apartment when I was born? Didn't you look after her? You didn't find me?" "It doesn't matter. I just have one question for you. Why?" Alan didn't seem to be so much taken aback by the news as by the fierce intensity with which she spoke. "How do you know everything?" he wondered. "You probably haven't noticed that I look remarkably like my mother, but my father did. Besides, I saw a photo of them together, so there's no reason for me to be messing around with my own brother." Still not recovered, the man sat down and was silent for a few minutes, as if gathering his thoughts and choosing words. Finally, he spoke. "Yes, I did buy the apartment for Jessica. because David had done her an injustice. He had no right to leave her like that, like a tired toy. Not her. Pride wouldn't let her tell him about the baby. Pride wouldn't let her ask for money to support her. That's why I didn't tell him anything about you. He just had no right to know that he had a child. His baby is his own. His own. But he'd already had Matthew by then. Yeah, another baby. I fell in love with her, and I wanted her to be my wife. I'd raise you like a daughter, take care of you and mommy. But she loved your father and chose him again. Again. Don't you think there's too much you're leaving out? Vanessa asked. I don't need the whole truth. It doesn't concern me. Why did you bring me here? I wanted to keep you under supervision. I didn't think he'd recognize you. I didn't think he'd recognize you, that Matthew would be interested in you. You're just a child. You're not old enough to live on your own. That's why I found you, invited you to work here. I can't stay here anymore, Vanessa said. I'm sorry, but it's beyond me. Why not? What's stopping you? Did David ask you to do this? No, he asked me not to tell anyone yet. So stay here for now. I'll decide what's best. Okay. While Vanessa was thinking of an answer, Alan got a call. What? Where is he? Is he alive? What hospital is he in? The man exclaimed. A moment later, he sprinted out of the room and rushed toward the service exit. Vanessa remained, not realizing what had happened. By late afternoon, it was learned that Matthew, while riding out of town in an automobile, had been involved in an accident. The likelihood that he would be alive was minimal. From the news, Vanessa could hardly stand on her feet. David rushed to see his son at the hospital. Alan was there too. The others had to wait to see if the young man would survive the night. By morning, it was reported that the boy needed a blood transfusion. And a few hours later, it became known that the injuries were much more serious than the doctors had decided the day before. A lot of blood was needed. In addition, the guy had a rather rare group, the 4th negative. In such a situation, the ideal donor could be someone close to him. Vanessa's first impulse was to offer herself as a donor, but her Rh factor was positive. She was surprised by this. She had known since high school that children inherited their father's Rh factor, so it had to be the same for her and Matthew. Meanwhile, the search for a suitable donor was unsuccessful, and time was literally counting by minutes. Close relatives and all those who were in the hospital at the time were checked for a match. Unexpectedly, Alan turned out to be a suitable donor candidate. No one paid any attention to it at the time. Everyone was alarmed by the guy's condition and was glad that he would live. Recovery took quite a long time. The young and healthy body was taking its toll despite the serious injuries. Chiara was sent back to England by her father so as not to upset her. Besides, the school year was starting and the girl was just beginning her studies. The wedding due to the accident had to be postponed. It seemed that neither the bride nor the groom was particularly upset by this news. At the end of August, Matthew was discharged from the hospital. Vanessa, who all this time tried not to show her father in front of her eyes and not to remember about her inappropriate feelings for her brother, realized that her idea to go home at the beginning of summer was the most reasonable. It turned out that Alan had interrogated her on the day of the accident for a reason. Matthew had shared his plans for Vanessa with him. The guy really fell in love and planned to leave the bride imposed by her father. He was not at all embarrassed by the fact that his beloved was a maid and that his father would be furious when he found out about everything. He decided to share his plans with someone he had grown accustomed to trusting since childhood. Uncle Elanonu, his father's assistant and longtime friend, had actually raised the boy. In many ways, Matthew trusted him much more, so he decided to confide his plans for his upcoming marriage to him as well. Trust him, and ask for advice. Alan realized that the boy's youth and inexperience could ruin not only his life and career, but also hurt his father. In his first impulse, Alan wanted to send Vanessa back to her hometown. His plans were thwarted by an accident. And then he realized that he was doing to Matthew exactly the same thing his father had once done to David when he forced him to leave Jessica. However, he wasn't going to let their relationship go as far. Another naive, jilted girl and another unhappy child. No, that wasn't what Alan was going to allow. He made the decision to give them time to work things out. Maybe this relationship would work itself out. Or maybe there was no love affair. just a desire to go against his father's plans, so he decided not to get involved. Besides, it had been over 2 months, and the infatuation with the girl might have worn off in the young man's head. Unfortunately for him, Matthew not only did not forget about his infatuation with the young maid, but from the first day he decided to take active steps. And the first step was a huge bouquet, which Vanessa found under her door the next morning. There was no envelope with an indication of the giver, but it was not required. There were, and could be, no options. Vanessa decided to nip his advances in the bud. Entering the young man's room, she caught him warming up. After a month of forced bed rest and recovery from fractures, the guy decided to make up for lost time. His leg was still in a cast after a bad fracture, but he had already asked to have arm exercisers installed in the room. The moment Vanessa walked in, he was working out while listening to music through headphones. He couldn't hear her enter, and she froze, seeing him so perfect, so athletic. Apollo in a cast. Considering that she'd hardly had relationships or attention from guys before, she wanted to give in to his advances, if only for a short time, and then tell him everything, or silently disappear and live the rest of her life in happy memories. She must have been too deep in thought, because Matthew had noticed her presence and was saying something to her. I'm glad Vanessa seemed to have listened to the most important part of the conversation, considering how wide and happy the guy was smiling. I'm sorry, I was listening. What were you talking about? I was saying that I'm going to break up with her today and tell my dad. Tell him what? I guess I hit my head a little, Matthew joked. I couldn't help it, and I can hear you. I can't understand why you make decisions that affect me without asking my opinion. I thought you liked me too. There's a very, very, very big difference between liking you and running to the ends of the earth with you. But for example, you and I haven't met. I'm a maid. You're a millionaire's son. I'm a college graduate. You're a prestigious foreign university. You're rich and famous, I'm not. I wanted to finish, but she didn't dare. I don't see the problem. We've got plenty of time to get to know each other. How old are you? 19 soon. Great. Plenty of time to get a decent education. It's not like I'm dragging you to the wedding on your doorstep like Ciara and I did. Let's just be around each other and get to know each other. I like you a lot, and I can't believe you don't feel the same way about me. With those words, Matthew reached out his arms to her and gently pulled her to him. She should have resisted, should have turned away, should have pulled away and pushed him away. Great came a familiar voice. I'm gone for a couple weeks, and he's already smirking. With some girl. A furious Ciara stood in the doorway, glaring at the couple. Ciara, what are you doing here? Matthew didn't seem bothered by the fact that he was kissing another girl in front of his fiancée. He didn't even open his arms, still holding Vanessa to his chest. The same ones you did. You're so shameless. Now let her go. I don't know who you're hugging. It would have been nice if she was a famous model. Stop, Ciara shouted, yanking Vanessa's arm away from Matthew. I can't believe it. The maid. What are you doing here anyway? You haven't changed a bit. You're still the same ugly gray mouse. Ciara, stop it. Matthew stood up for Vanessa, not surprised that the girls knew each other. What are you, silent? Did you choke on your tongue as usual? What brings you here? Are you trying to get back at me? You sneak into my fiancé's house and get into bed with him. Don't get your hopes up, you won't get him. Ciara, you're wrong, Vanessa tried to justify herself. I took a job in this house, not knowing that it would soon be yours. I came to Matthew's room to see if he needed anything cleaned or brought in, and I accidentally fell on his lips. And he asked me to help him up out of his chair. I did, Ciara finished. You've never been good at lying, but now you decided to try. Well, that's a ridiculous excuse to fall for. Anyway, she turned to her fiancé. It's going to stop today, or else, well, she knows it will be otherwise. With that, the girl left the room, slamming the door so that a painting fell from the wall. The glass shattered into several dozen pieces, one of which bounced off and hurt Matthew's hand. Damn, what a fury. He laughed, trying to pull the shard out of the wound. Let me help, Vanessa said on impulse. But after a couple of minutes, Vanessa regretted it, because she found herself pressed against the door. The young man, not waiting for her to object, kissed her. Her legs gave out and she would have fallen if he hadn't put his arms around her. Gathering her will in a fist, she managed to pull away and say, "Don't ever do that again." "But you liked it, didn't you?" The guy grinned and reached for her for another kiss. This time Vanessa managed to dodge. "I have to clean this place up," she said, ducking out the door and trying to hide in her room as quickly as possible. After catching her breath, she went back to the kitchen, grabbed a dustpan and broom, and headed for Matthew's room. This time he was fully dressed and sitting in front of the TV. "Calm down? Let's continue. I'm here to clean up the glass," Vanessa said. "I hope you won't hurt your hand with anything else." "Not anymore. But you didn't remove that shard from me either. If you behave like this, it'll stay in your hand, and you'll let it," Matthew said mockingly. "And if it starts to get blood poisoning and I die without glory or honor?" The young man's voice was enveloping and made him think of anything but work. "No, I can't let David get blood poisoning," Vanessa said. "No, you can't. He was the only one with the right blood. He's had a lot of it pumped out of him." "That's right. That's the only thing worth living for. I'll appreciate him even more now. He's been my best and truest friend before, and now we're of the same blood." "You were the same blood before. No one else had such a rare bloodline. Not even your parents," Vanessa blurted out. She was about to bite her tongue off for that last sentence, because Matthew clung to her like a bulldog. "What's weird, your parents don't have a band like mine. I misspoke. And anyway, I have to go. Or you're not going anywhere until you explain what you meant." Matthew's tone went from playful to affectionate to categorical, unapologetic. "I didn't mean anything. Except that children most often inherit their parents' RH factor," Vanessa said hastily. "If I remember my biology course well, if a child has it negative, it means that he took it from his parents or one of them. So if my parents have it positive and I have it negative, I'm a foundling?" "No, why? Maybe your father's RH factor is positive. Usually children inherit it from their father. But I'm not sure, I don't know. We should go to the hospital," she suggested. The boy seemed to understand everything and began to reason out loud. "Alan's father is an acquaintance from childhood. They were friends. Alan devoted his whole life to sports, and his father went into business. When he was able to make good money, he invited Alan to become a personal security guard. Gradually, he took on other responsibilities such as running the house. Always together, always there for each other. Never a quarrel. And now Alan becomes the only suitable donor for me." "Well, maybe you don't know and someone else helped?" Vanessa suggested. "There are all sorts of reasons why a person can't be a donor illnesses. For example, maybe your mom with the same rhesus." Vanessa regretted 100 times that she had voiced her doubts aloud. "No, only Alan's." Matthew cut her off. He seemed oblivious to the fact that Vanessa was still in the room. He gestured toward the door, signaling that she should leave the room. He picked up the phone from the table and dialed a familiar number. "You can come to my room. It's an emergency," the guy shouted after he heard an attempted objection. Going downstairs, Vanessa ran into Alan on the stairs, who was walking with quick steps towards Matthew's room. Finishing her business, the girl returned to her room and began packing. It was naive to believe that she was in a position to fight this. It had some incomprehensible magical power over her, making her lose her will and her mind. The consequences could be most unpredictable and terrible. So she should have left the house, returned to her own place, and thought about how to live further, how and what to earn money for. About demanding from her father financial help or his participation in her life. The girl did not even think about it. She wanted to forget this page of her life. No sooner had she packed her things than the phone rang. It was Alan. He asked her to come up to Matthew's room. His voice was calm but strange. "I told you not to go where you don't belong." Alan greeted her with those words as soon as she could enter. "Wait, don't scare her before she's ready. Maybe things can still work out very well." Matthew cheered up after talking to Alan, as if he had heard great news. "I don't understand what's going on," Vanessa said. Alan, I wanted to ask you to pay me back. I can't stay here any longer. Of course, you've made a mess, and you're in the bushes. No, darling, you're not going to do it now. No, dear, you're not going anywhere now, Alan grinned. Matthew tried to grab the girl's hand. The attempt, however, was unsuccessful, and he fell back onto the bed where he had been sitting. Vanessa instinctively rushed over to him for support. I told you she loves me too, Matthew laughed, standing up easily and hugging the girl. I see that history is repeating itself again. And your father will not be happy about this news, Alan shook his head. Not to mention your fiancée and her father. My fiancée is in front of you, Matthew objected. Will someone please explain to me what's even going on here? Vanessa pulled out of Matthew's embrace. She looked from one to the other, trying to figure out what they were hiding. Alan, tell me. She knows half of this terrible secret anyway. Besides, she thinks she's in love with her brother. And don't argue, I can see that you like me, the guy said when the girl tried to get indignant. Judy, sit down. This is going to be a long conversation, Alan said. David and I grew up in the same neighborhood. Ever since kindergarten, we've done every mischief together. Never fought. Always helping each other out. We lived like that for almost 10 years until a military family moved in next door. The incoming officer and his wife had a beautiful daughter, Addison. As you can imagine, that's Matthew's mom. We were both crazy about her, chasing her around like puppies. And we weren't the only ones. She was the star of the school within a year. Nobody even noticed her at first. And then we graduated and moved away. And we met at the New Year's Eve ball at school, not knowing what David had charmed her with. We had an affair. But I didn't want to give up either, even though I couldn't stand in the way of their happiness. So I finally confessed everything to her and gave her a choice. She chose David? Vanessa asked. No, she did what a real woman would do. She stayed with one man and got pregnant by another, Matthew said angrily. Don't you dare say that. It's your mother. Alan almost punched the young man in the face. Matthew, stop it. Alan, what happened next? Tell me. As crude as it sounds, Matthew expressed the essence of what happened, Alan said. She did choose David, and she gave me a generous gift that I couldn't have hoped for on the last night. Who would have thought that was the night she'd get pregnant? Yeah. So that's why you have the same blood type? Vanessa guessed. Yeah, I've suspected that for a long time, Matthew said. I look a lot like you. The same habits. My father and I were always like strangers. When did you find out that Addison's baby was your son? When she and David set a wedding date, I decided to leave. Stay out of the way. I signed a contract and joined the army. Came back almost 6 years after I was wounded. No family, no money. David found me and invited me to stay with him. The first time I saw Matthew, I knew he was my son. I don't know how the others didn't see it. That's around the time David met Jessica. I thought to myself, this is my chance. Jessica's gonna leave, and I'm gonna marry Addison. And we'll all be happy, Alan said. Yeah, happy, Matthew queried. Did you forget that in the world of money, no one's happy? Yeah, you're right. And Addison had made it clear to me that she didn't want me. To be honest, I'd grown cold to her during the separation. So I helped David cover up the whole Jessica thing. I bought her an apartment while I looked after her. You fell in love? Vanessa asked. You sure did. We even have the same taste in women. Only Jessica remained faithful to her first, and only loved for the rest of her life. Yeah, Mom never looked at another man after that, Matthew confirmed. Well, it was a story that was gradually forgotten. David took his family abroad. I went with them. I lived in 2 countries. And when Jessica was gone, I decided to move Vanessa closer to me so I could keep an eye on her. Addison and his son decided to come back to America too? Vanessa guessed. And then you know the rest, my friends. I don't know how you fell in love, but this guy interrogated me today. I had to come clean. So you're Matthew's father? Vanessa asked. Does David know? No, I don't think so. Anyway, we've never talked about it. Yeah, it's a real passion, Vanessa shook her head. It's like a movie. It's better than that, Matthew grinned. Now I don't know if my alleged father will send me away and bequeath all his millions to you. Matthew, stop it. It's not funny. That's not funny. It's only fair, really. And I won't have to marry you or your daughter. I mean, he doesn't need me to make family connections with his business partners. Hey, I'm a good sport about this. Hey, I'm a good sport about this. You're going to be a rich heiress, and I'm going to get you again. Then I'll have the money again. Matthew seemed to be enjoying the situation. I wouldn't be so happy if I were you, Vanessa said. I think we should keep it a secret. At least for now, Alan said. I mean, Dad, are you crazy? Where's the secrecy going to go from here? So for a quarter of a century, everyone was silent. And it's not like David hadn't guessed anything. I suggest we get everyone together at the family council and confess everything. Have a night of revelations, Matthew suggested. It turns out that both parents were dishonest, both cheated and both had children on the side. Yourself? Alan questioned. But in fact, I'm an illegitimate child too. I'm not sure everyone will be as thrilled, Vanessa replied. I'm sure we can't keep quiet, Matthew insisted. Let's do it this way. I'll tell David myself. And then we'll think about it. The three of them went about their business. And not knowing that the capricious and resentful Ciara had already complained to her father about her fiancé Matthew. The man had never been known for his gentle nature, being resentful and suspicious. The fact that his potential partner couldn't keep his son in line meant that he would be just as soft in business, and he didn't want to do business with such people. By the time Alan had persuaded Matthew and Vanessa to keep quiet and not tell anyone what they'd learned, Ciara's father had already ordered the withdrawal of his investments in all of David's projects. Breaking up the deals threatened to lose large sums of money. Not getting a clear answer from his subordinates, David went home in a frenzy to seek an answer from his son. And the first person he saw in Matthew's room was his newfound daughter Vanessa in his son's arms. "How dare you?" David screamed at Vanessa. "Did you purposely show up to destroy my family? I will crush you to dust." "And you, puppy," he said to Matthew, "get dressed immediately and go to your fiancée. I don't care how, but you will beg her forgiveness. You'll restore the engagement. Her father will get his money back, invested in my business. And I'll deal with you later," he said to Vanessa. "I wouldn't be in such a hurry," Matthew replied. "Besides, you can't tell me what to do. I'm not even your subordinate, let alone anything more." "What did you say?" David was outraged. "I'll take everything away from you. You'll forget what expensive cars and resorts look like, where you used to spend my money." "I'm scared," Matthew replied calmly. "I'm already educated. Thank you, I'm sure, but you can't take it away. But you can't take it away from me. I'll take care of the rest." "You've never earned a penny in your life. You've never earned a penny in your life. Now you're showing a little attitude," David continued to shout. "I'm a grown man. As soon as I'm in shape, I'll leave your apartment. What's the holdup? I can have the room today. I think it's rightfully yours for your child to occupy." "Yes, Dad," Matthew said calmly. "Or did you think that your little secret of having a daughter out of wedlock would remain a secret?" David turned pale and sat back in his chair. He seemed suddenly short of breath. "What makes you think that?" he hissed. "Oh, don't say that. I have the courage to confess. And bonus, you get one more little secret. But just in case you think I'm hugging my own sister, Matthew." "What are you talking about?" David shook his head. "Yeah, so he didn't know. Well, Alan wanted to tell you, but I beat him to it." "Tell me what? Dad, have you known this your whole life?" Matthew stared at his father. "Didn't you ever see anything in me in common with him? Even I had my doubts as a child, when he and I had common tastes and interests." "That's impossible. Addison was faithful to me," David said stubbornly. "By and large, yes. They had a little adventure with your friend before you got married. That's why he moved away, so that he wouldn't interfere with your happiness." "You're wrong about what? That I'm his son?" Matthew asked. "I assure you I only found out today. Or rather, I guessed it, thanks to your clever and attentive daughter Vanessa." It was in her bright head came the idea that the parents with a positive Rh factor, having the second type of blood, cannot have a child with the fourth negative. Genetics is a scary, stubborn, and surprisingly accurate in such matters. I checked. Vanessa was right. The fact that Alan was the only suitable donor only made her suspicious. And you should have warned us all, Matthew continued wryly. Why? Because you should have been in school, not skipping classes. Vanessa looked at Matthew and couldn't believe her own eyes. In just one morning, he had gone from a sweet and handsome boy to a tough and sarcastic one. He seemed to enjoy seeing the effect his words had on David. Meanwhile, the man was getting worse as he unbuttoned his shirt collar and loosened the knot of his tie. From the change in his complexion, his condition was alarming. Matthew, stop it, Vanessa exclaimed. You can see he needs help. Grabbing the phone, she called an ambulance. Then she called Alan and David's driver. Together, they managed to carefully take the man downstairs to the exit, where the ambulance was already arriving. The girl decided to accompany her newfound father to the hospital. She instructed Alan to talk to Matthew so he wouldn't do anything stupid again. David was taken to the hospital just in time. On the background of high blood pressure and stress, he had a stroke. Fortunately, there were doctors nearby, which meant that it was hoped that the consequences would not be so devastating. The man stayed in hospital for about 2 weeks, after which there was a long period of rehabilitation. Vanessa lived between the hospital and home. Even though her father had received excellent care at the expensive hospital, she was terrified to even imagine that she could lose her last loved one, barely finding him. She'd only crossed paths with Matthew a couple times in all this time. He, too, seemed to have lost interest in her. As soon as the cast was removed from her leg, Matthew moved out of the house without telling her where he was going. Before he left, he contacted his mother, who was in Los Angeles, and warned her that she shouldn't show up at their new home yet, for her father had found out her little secret. Don't feel bad about it, Addison replied. He has one of his own. Suddenly, his illegitimate daughter, Ciara, had turned up and was now staying in his bed. He's probably already made her his sole heir. So you have no business in LA, Matthew said sharply. What daughter? What are you talking about? Matthew, your life with him has never been perfect, Addison replied. So I don't think you're surprised by this news. Besides, he's a man, and men have a tendency to have affairs on the side. At least, I understand him. Besides, it's not your place to complain about him. Hisham. How's he doing? He'll live. They got him to the hospital on time, and he's got the best doctors in the world. Have you been to see him? No, why? As it turns out, I'm nothing to him now. He raised you? Even if you didn't know he wasn't your father, he put all his heart, soul, love, and a lot of money into you. Is that what you're saying? That too. How can you be so callous? I'm not callous. I'm sober. There's no point in me staying there now, which is why I'm calling you so you don't accidentally show up. I'm on the next flight out. It's a shame your health and the lives of your family don't mean anything to you. I'm sorry. In spite of everything, your father and I have been together for over 20 years. It's up to you. Don't be surprised to find a new mistress at home. Let me handle this. The next day, the woman was in New York. She decided to come home later and went to the hospital right after the airport. Her husband's condition was indeed quite satisfactory. Still, a healthy and fairly young body was able to cope with such a test. In the corridor, Addison met Vanessa. Surprisingly, the girl seemed completely different from how her son had presented her. Even though they had a romantic relationship looming, David was resting after his treatments, so the woman decided to ask Vanessa about him. Vanessa talked about David's well-being and the doctor's prognosis. Somehow, imperceptibly, the conversation turned to who Vanessa really was. The girl told how she herself had found out that her master was her father. How Matthew had guessed that Alan was his father. In fact, they hadn't noticed how they had talked for hours, sitting in the quiet hospital cafe. After talking to the girl, Addison went to her husband's room and Vanessa went home. She was to give the order to prepare a room for the mistress. Lately, she had taken over the housekeeper's duties and was doing a fine job with them. Alan was away on a business trip. Addison came home in the evening and was pleasantly surprised to see that they had prepared for her arrival. She said that they had discussed things with her husband calmly without mutual complaints or recriminations. In the end, they came to the conclusion that they would keep the family together, because many years had passed since their transgressions. Matthew David promised to help with his own business, and Vanessa to send to study. Now it was their mutual children. Besides, Vanessa had no one else but them. Sometimes life presents us with serious tests of willpower, kindness, loyalty, humanity. It is important not only to deal with the problem, but also to understand and learn the lesson. And the most important thing is to remain human in any situation. Vanessa was lucky. Life compensated her for the most difficult loss with several new acquisitions: family, prospects, opportunities, study. And although no one and nothing could replace her mother, now she could rely on her father.